Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic, What If Naruto is Trained by Zabuza and Haku. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Chapter 1, Iruka's Words. Author's notes, I really do need to stop doing this. This story is a response to a challenge from a triumvirate of Ray, to write a story where Naruto is the bad guy and Sasuke the good guy. Any of you who are familiar with my stories know just how challenging that is likely to be for me. I have a rough idea about the pairings, but I'll save them for later. In the forest near the village hidden in the leaves, a desperate battle was being fought that would affect the destiny not only of Konoha but of all the elemental lands. This battle was ostensibly being fought over the ownership of a precious scroll filled with forbidden jutsus. But though none of the participants realized it, there was something even more precious at stake. The heart and soul of one particular boy. Two bodies collided in the air and both slammed into the ground below. One figure with a scar across his nose grunted in pain. How did you know? There was a puff of smoke, and the figure was revealed to be Mizuki. How did you know I wasn't Iruka? A blonde-haired boy in an orange jumpsuit panted and managed a rough smile. There was a puff of smoke and the boy was revealed to be the real Iruka. Because I am. I see. Mizuki slowly came to his feet and took out a massive shuriken from his back. Iruka also tried to get up, but the many wounds suffered earlier were too much and he remained where he was. I would have let you go, but you deliberately sacrificed yourself to let the brat escape. Why? Because I refused to let a traitor like you have the scroll. Mizuki laughed. So instead you'd rather let that monster have it instead. The monster that killed your parents. Though neither of them knew it, the real Naruto was only about 10 yards away, hidden behind a large tree. He had the scroll he'd been tricked into stealing and could hear every word. There's no way that Demon Fox wouldn't use the power of the scroll, you know. Yeah, that's true, Iruka admitted. Nearby, Naruto felt his heart break. The kind words his sensei had spoken just a moment before, they were a lie. He hates me too. They all hate me. But, sorry Iruka, I need to find the boy and don't have time to waste. Mizuki threw his shuriken. From his hiding spot, Naruto heard the thwunk as the weapon hit its target. He heard the last cry of pain that signaled the end of Iruka-sensei. That Iruka might have said more had he been given the chance to never occurred to Naruto. He was certain his final words had shown how he'd really felt. I'm glad he's dead, Naruto thought viciously. Everyone hates me. Everyone but the old man. At least now I know why. So I have the Kyuubi inside me, huh? Good. Then I really will have the power I need to make them all sorry. In that moment Naruto made a decision that would have terrible consequences. He decided that he no longer wanted people to acknowledge or respect him. He wanted revenge for everything he had been forced to suffer. He stood up and deliberately walked around to the other side of the tree he was hiding behind. Mizuki looked up in surprise as he yanked out his weapon from Iruka's corpse. So, you figured out you couldn't get away and decided to just give up. That's the smartest thing you could have done. Give me the scroll and I'll let you go. Liar, Naruto spat. You're just like all the rest of them. You all hate me for something that was never my fault. Mizuki laughed a bit and carefully hefted the shuriken. Well, that's true, but whether it's your fault or not doesn't really matter. You are the Demon Fox, that's all that counts. That's fine, he said and formed the ram sign. If we're enemies no matter what, then I'll just kill you. You kill me. Mizuki laughed again and took aim. I'd like to see you try. Naruto performed the hand signs he had studied with such desperate energy the last few hours. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Smoke filled the entire area. When it cleared, there were 200 clones surrounding Mizuki. What? This is impossible. The Naruto's grinned as just one spoke in a low voice. Is anything impossible for me? I am the Kyuubi after all. Like a wave the clones rushed forward. Mizuki beat off the first dozen but was soon overwhelmed and dragged down. The original Naruto remained calmly in place as his clones beat Mizuki to death. Miles away in the tower, the third Hokage watched the scene play out. Saw Iruka's tragic end as a terrified Naruto was hidden nearby. Then witnessed Naruto come out of hiding to avenge his teacher's death. Sarutobi was surprised to see Naruto capable of such power. He was saddened to see him lose all self-control, but could understand it given the circumstances and the betrayal he'd just undergone. He had missed Naruto's final words to Mizuki. If he had heard them he would have been even more worried. As it was, things were bad enough. He sent word to his Anbu to escort Naruto and the scroll to him and to recover Mizuki's body. A short time later a sullen and quiet Naruto was in his office. Physically the boy was fine. Emotionally, who could guess? "Naruto, I want you to tell me what happened," Sarutobi said quietly. There was no reason for him to reveal what he had witnessed. Naruto nodded and began to tell him everything, starting from the conversation with Mizuki where he had been duped into stealing the scroll. He told Sarutobi everything that had happened but was careful not to reveal his thoughts. At the end Sarutobi just stared back at the boy sadly. No, there was no way Naruto could be blamed for anything that had happened tonight. Students were taught to trust in their senseis, Mizuki alone was responsible for this night's tragedy. "You must have a lot of questions, Naruto," Sarutobi finally said. "You can ask me anything you want." What Mizuki said, was it true? Sarutobi slowly nodded. "Yes Naruto, I am afraid it is. In order to preserve the village the fourth Hokage had to use a special seal to lock the Kyuubi into a newborn child. You were that child. That seal that appears on your belly whenever you mild chakra is proof of that. The Yondaime knew the sacrifice you would be required to make. His final wish was that you be seen as a hero." "A hero?" Naruto said bitterly. "That didn't quite work out, did it? People have treated me like garbage all my life and I never even knew why." "Well, at least now I know." He looked at the old Hokage questioningly. "Does everyone know?" "No, shortly after you were born I passed a special law that those who knew the truth could not speak of it to any who did not. I did that with the specific hope that you would be able to have normal friendships with others of your own generation." "So you mean all the kids in my class hate me just because?" He actually laughed a little. "I don't know if that's better or worse than the ones who hate me for what I have inside me." "Is it really that bad, Naruto? I always thought you had at least a few friends among your classmates." Naruto gave a vigorous shake of his head. "Some of them are less mean than others and just mostly leave me alone. But I don't have a single friend, not one. I tried, I really did, but none of them ever wanted to be friends with me." I should have paid closer attention, Sarutobi thought. He could guess the reason. Likely most of the parents had poisoned their children against him. Either deliberately or not, the children had picked up the attitudes of their parents. "What's going to happen to me, old man? Am in trouble for stealing the scroll?" "No," Sarutobi said in a firm voice. "You were the unwitting pawn of Mizuki's. When you did realize the truth you acted exactly as a ninja should in eliminating a traitor and returning the scroll. In essence Naruto, you successfully completed a B-rank mission. I intend to have that placed in your record and have you paid in accordance." The old man finally smiled. "I also intend to promote you to genin for your actions." He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a shiny new Hitai-ite. "Here Naruto, take it, you've certainly earned it." Naruto reached out and took the metal and cloth headband. So I get to be a ninja after all." "You certainly do, Naruto." "Thank you, old man." Naruto leapt onto the Hokage and hugged him with all his might. Sarutobi looked down at Naruto's honest joy and whatever lingering doubts had been left were dispersed. "You're the only one, old man. You're the only one who's been good to me and I'll never forget it. I'll make you proud of me, I swear it." And where Sarutobi could not see, Naruto had a cold smile very different from the ones he was known for. "And I'll make everyone else in this village sorry. I swear that too." Chapter 2, Meeting Sensei. After talking to the Hokage he went home and crashed at his dirty little apartment. He was trying to sort through everything in his mind and in his heart. In just one day his entire world had been torn apart. He'd failed the graduation test, been given hope by Mizuki, successfully stolen the Forbidden Scroll, mastered the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, been rescued from Mizuki by Iruka, been told the truth about what was inside of him, heard Iruka admit he really cared about him, heard Iruka admit he really didn't, heard Iruka die, killed Mizuki, and finally been promoted by the old man. It had been a pretty busy day. He removed the Hitai-ite that was around his forehead so he could look at it. It was just cloth connected to a thin sheet of metal with the leaf symbol stamped on it. It was probably only worth 500 ryu, if that. But the moment he'd received it, it had become his single most precious possession. He wouldn't trade this for a mountain of gold. The third Hokage gave this to me, he said I'd earned it. I'm really a ninja now. A serious look crossed his face as he thought about that. That's right, I'm a ninja now. I can't act like a kid anymore. No more dumb pranks, no more pleading for attention, or whining about how things aren't fair. I have to stop fooling around and be really serious about things. That's the only way I'll reach my dreams. He had two dreams now. One was to make the old man really proud of him. The other was to become Hokage and make every last person in this village kneel down before him. To hell with making them acknowledge me, I'll make them worship me instead. I'll make them fear me and obey my every command. He smiled wickedly there in his darkened room. After all, I am the Kyuubi, right? The most powerful being to ever walk this earth. I'll make them worship me even if they do all hate me. When he fell asleep that night he had a dream. He found himself in the forest again. There in the clearing he found the bodies of Iruka and Mizuki, the latter was almost unrecognizable. He also had the scroll again. Standing there a voice called to him from the dark woods. You did good, kid, much better than I'd have ever expected. Who's there? Naruto called out fearfully. The figure walked out of the darkness and into the clear pale moonlight. Well, I'm you, and the Kyuubi. But you're the Kyuubi, right? The other Naruto laughed as if it were the funniest joke in the world. He was an exact copy of Naruto, except that his eyes were red and slitted. What are you? A clone. I told you what I am, I'm the Kyuubi. And since you're the Kyuubi I must be part of you, right? Looking closely at his other self he couldn't help but feel dread creeping over him. There was something scary about this clone, and it wasn't just the red eyes. He wanted to run away, he wanted to get as far away as he could as fast as he could. But he stamped down hard on that feeling. Ninjas didn't run away and they didn't get scared. If you're me you know what happened and what I plan to do. The other Naruto nodded gleefully. I sure do, kid, and I'm here to help. You want power? I'll give you power, and I'll help you to your goal. Naruto frowned suspiciously. If you're really a part of me why do you keep saying, you, and calling me a kid? I hate that. Must be because I've been asleep so long that I haven't fully integrated with you yet, the other Naruto said smoothly. The important thing is that I represent all the Kyuubi's power and knowledge. I can help you, all you need to do is listen to my advice. Naruto wasn't sure just what to make of this other self, but he was willing to at least listen. What's your advice? First, you need to keep our knowing each other a secret. You've seen how much people hate you just for being the Kyuubi. If they find out that you've gained access to the Kyuubi's full power and knowledge they'll kill you. Naruto shivered. He'd been badly beaten many times as a child and been chased by angry mobs. It was not hard to imagine the people taking that last step and actually killing him. All right, but how can you help me if I can't use your power? Put a frog in a boiling pot and he will jump out. But put him in a warm pot and raise the heat a bit at a time and he'll stay until he's cooked. The other Naruto smiled wickedly. Starting tomorrow you'll have a major boost in the amount of chakra you can use, and I'll keep increasing it a bit at a time. Your healing and stamina are already quite advanced. I'll boost your physical strength and agility too. Your senses will all be sharper, especially your sense of smell. I'll also help you with your memory. Here the other Naruto sighed with impatience. I can't transplant my memories to you, and anyway there isn't much there that would be useful to a human. But from here on out you won't forget things, anything you see even once you'll remember. So learn everything you can and pay attention. You can use your clones to learn even faster. Whatever your clones experience you'll remember. He nodded to the scroll the true Naruto was holding. You can start by studying that while you sleep. Huh, but why? I already learned the Kage Bunshin. Idiot, he growled. There are a dozen jutsus on that scroll, all of them are S-ranked. Have you forgotten you unrolled it and looked at all of them? Of course not. I wound up studying the Kage Bunshin because the rest were even more impossible to figure out. Anything I see even once I remember. That scroll is an exact copy of the real one. While you sleep you can learn those jutsus. Even if it takes a while they will prove immensely useful to you. Naruto looked at the large scroll with sudden interest. Some of those other jutsus looked really intriguing. Especially the exploding clone and divine wind techniques. Now one last thing, don't reveal yourself to them yet. You're not strong enough. What do you mean? I mean play the happy idiot a while longer, at least until you're powerful enough to stop wearing masks. You can drop the pranks and the constant need for attention, people will expect you to be more serious now that you're considered an adult. But continue to smile and pretending you still care what others think. Grudgingly Naruto nodded. His late unlamented teacher Iruka had often told them that deception was the lifeblood of ninja. He'd survived up until now by wearing a cheerful mask. He supposed he could keep wearing it. The next day Naruto took his photo for the ninja registry and had a short meeting with the Hokage afterwards. As he was leaving, a little kid ran in shouting something about attacking the Hokage just before tripping over his own feet. Not caring, he left quickly. He found an empty piece of ground and spent most of the day using his clones to practice taijutsu. The day after, he skipped breakfast and reported to the academy one last time to receive his team assignment. Walking into the classroom, he picked up an excited buzz from the others. They were all eagerly talking to one another about their hopes for the future. No one bothered to come up to him. Climbing the steps, Shikamaru finally noticed him. "Naruto, what are you doing here? Class today is only for the students who actually passed." His immediate instinct was to ask the jerk if he was blind and lazy. Instead though, he gave the other boy a wide smile and tapped his ite. "See for yourself, I did pass." Shikamaru lifted an eyebrow, then grunted and put his head back down, apparently saying anything more would be too troublesome. Naruto found an empty seat on the aisle and sat down. He noted who the other person sitting in the section was and promptly ignored him. About a minute later there was a shout from the doorway and two high-pitched voices began to shrill an argument about who had got there first. Naruto looked at the two girls. He dismissed the rude blonde and focused on the equally rude pink-haired girl. Just 2 days ago his heart would have been racing right now and he'd have been gathering up his courage to try asking her out, again. Though his heart still ached a little, he decided he would not waste any more time with her. He had treated her as well as he knew how to, and in return she had never even given him one kind word. Even if she had no interest in ever dating him, she could have at least done that much. Well, after today I won't have to deal with her anymore. He glanced down the table, or the gloomy princess either. "Move, Naruto. I want to sit next to Sasuke." Sakura screeched at him. He gave her a wide smile and scooted his chair forward. "Sure, Sakura-chan." She didn't spare him even a look. She just sat down in the middle seat and immediately began telling her uppity prince how wonderful he was. As usual, Mr. Personality ignored her. Looking at the scene, he couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Sasuke had everything he'd ever wanted and seemed to make a point of showing people that none of it mattered to him. The bastard should at least appreciate how lucky he is. Sasuke noticed his staring and deemed him worthy of a questioning glance. Naruto sent him a huge smile and Sasuke promptly ignored him again. After a while, Gecko Hayate entered the classroom with a clipboard. He was another of the teachers and familiar to all of them. "Please, settle down everyone. I, will be the one assigning you to your teams and senseis." Naruto noticed he didn't say a word about why he was here doing this instead of Iruka or Mizuki. A few students wondered aloud about that, but no one thought it important enough to actually ask about. Most were just excited to find out where they were being assigned and with whom. Naruto didn't notice it, but a shy girl in the back row was looking over at him and pressing her fingers together. She was hoping she would end up on a team with him. As Hayate named the teams and the various senseis, Naruto found himself listening as excitedly as anyone else. "Team 7, Hayate said. Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto looked up eagerly. "Haruno Sakura." Sakura slumped in her seat and let out a moan. Naruto glanced at her coldly but otherwise did not react. "And Uchiha Sasuke, your Jonin instructor will be Hatake Kakashi." Both Naruto and Sasuke remained outwardly unaffected. Sakura jumped up and shouted with joy even as most of the other girls looked on jealously. "Oh yeah, I'm with Sasuke-kun." The two boys sent her identical looks of annoyance. When they saw they were mirroring each other, they both looked away again. "I really am Kami's chew toy, aren't I?" Naruto thought glumly. This was the worst possible combination for him. He was stuck with the superior jerk who thought the whole village was beneath him and with his former crush who would obviously side against him in everything. Anything else would be better, even being stuck with loud vain Ino, or the lazy idiot, or the rude kid with the puppy. He knew complaining now would do no good. He thought about going to talk to the Hokage later, but immediately dumped the idea. He couldn't keep running to the old man for help. If he was really going to make the old man proud, he needed to start handling things on his own. I guess I'll just have to suck it up and deal with it. All right, Hayate said once the teams were all listed. You are now free for the next hour, so go have lunch. Be back in 1 hour's time to meet your senseis. Naruto left immediately to go get some ramen at his favorite place. He knew Sasuke would have no interest in eating with his new teammates and that Sakura would want to eat alone with Sasuke. Neither of them noticed or cared as he left. Coming back from Ichiraku's, Naruto was surprised to see Sakura out in the courtyard. He was even more surprised when she spotted him and hurried up to greet him. For a second, just 1 second, he felt hope flutter to life in his heart. Maybe now that they were teammates she would accept him as a friend and comrade. Getting even that much from her would make him very happy. But the second she opened her mouth, her angry tone killed his momentary hope. Hey Naruto Baka, I want to talk to you. What about Sakura? He said in a cold, flat voice. Since no one else was around, he decided to dump the mask for a bit. The girl actually blinked and did a double take. What did you say to me? She barked. He crossed his arms over his chest and gave his former crush a hard look. I asked you what you wanted to talk to me about. Whatever it is, just go ahead and tell me. I don't want to be late for meeting our sensei. She stared at him, not believing his reaction. He was always loud and annoying and trying to come between her and Sasuke. Where the hell had this sudden attitude come from? I want you to know that I'm going to be with Sasuke. Don't get in my way or I'll make you regret it. She'd spent the entire lunch period eating alone, hoping Sasuke would come over and talk to her. He'd actually passed by a couple minutes ago. He'd gone right past her without so much as a word. Obviously winning his love would be hard, but she was determined to do it no matter what. And part of that was making sure Naruto Baka didn't get in the way. Naruto stood there and looked at her. Sakura imagined the air around her was suddenly chilly and rubbed her arms. You know Sakura, I never realized how loud and annoying you were. What? She spat out. He walked past her. Lunch is over, don't be late. She stood there rooted to the spot, staring at his back as Naruto walked away from her. It seemed as though the idiot had finally figured out he had no chance with her. She knew she should have been happy. Without his interference, things with her and Sasuke would go much more smoothly. Yet somehow hearing Naruto be so cold to her, it hurt, just a little. She shook her head angrily. What the hell am I thinking? I'm glad Naruto doesn't like me anymore. Sasuke is all that matters. She marched back to class and tried to forget that weird feeling of sadness. They were the last ones in the classroom. All the other senseis had been waiting there to collect their teams when lunch ended. 2 hours later though, Team 7 was still waiting. They were all sitting in different rows, about as far apart as possible. Naruto had deliberately picked a different seat when he returned. Sakura had sat beside Sasuke of course, but as soon as the room had emptied he had turned to her and asked her to give him some room. At that point she wouldn't have minded too much if Naruto had wanted to talk to her a little, but he'd remained as silent as Sasuke. She sent a curious glance his way. Since when was Naruto like this? He'd always been filled with compliments, always eager to tell her she was pretty or smelled nice or that she was smart. Why had he suddenly stopped? When he noticed her looking at him, her deliberately looked away. Sighing, she looked back up at the clock. They'd spent the last 40 minutes sitting her in silence waiting. Looking at how apart they all were, she suddenly wondered just what sort of team they were going to be. 2 hours after all the other teams had gone, Hitaki Kakashi slid open the classroom door and popped his head in. 3 young faces turned to look at him. A dark-haired boy looked utterly disinterested. A blonde was trying to smile but was clearly hiding his anger. A pink-haired girl made no effort to hide her own anger. You're late, she shouted. Ignoring her, he nodded to them. All right, Team 7, meet me on the roof in 2 minutes. He vanished before them in a swirl of wind and leaves. 2 minutes later he was facing his students on the academy rooftop. They were all staring back at him silently. My first impression, you seem a little hostile. That's because you kept us waiting 2 whole hours. Sakura shouted. Why were you so late? Beneath his mask Kakashi smiled. Oh, I would have been here on time but a black cat kept crossing my path. Sakura's jaw dropped. Are you really a Jonin? Sasuke asked dryly. Naruto continued to stare at him without comment. Tough crowd, Kakashi muttered. Well, let's begin with introductions. Tell me your names, your dreams, your likes and dislikes. Isn't it considered rude to ask someone for their name without giving yours first? Sasuke asked. The Jonin shrugged. Fair enough. My name is Hitaki Kakashi, there are lots of things I like and dislike, and my dreams are none of your business. Wait, all you really told us was your name. Sakura objected. Yes, he said with a hidden smile. Now let me hear from all of you. Why don't we start with the one dressed like a street cone? You have something against orange? Naruto asked in a friendly voice. Not at all. I sometimes paint my bullseyes that color to make them easier to see. Sasuke snorted and Sakura laughed out loud. Naruto kept smiling but his eyes were not in tune with his mouth. You're not nearly as good at hiding your feelings as you think, Naruto. Ignoring the reaction of his new teammates, Naruto spoke up in a light, carefree voice. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, training, and the old man. I hate anyone who hates me. At this point he sent a deliberate look Sakura's way. The girl did not miss it and shrank away from him a little. Kakashi did not miss the look or the reaction. As for dreams, I have two. I want to make the Hokage proud of me. And I want to be Hokage myself one day. Why? Kakashi asked judiciously. Naruto broadened his smile. So that I can punish all ninja who are more than 10 minutes late to a meeting. That got light laughs from both Sasuke and Sakura. Kakashi decided to let it go, but there was something about Naruto that was troubling. Now the little lady. My name is Haruno Sakura. My dream is, she looked at Sasuke and began to giggle. What I like is, she again looked in Sasuke's direction only to burst into a fit of giggles. What I hate is, she looked at Naruto and saw he looking right back. I don't really hate anything or anyone, I guess. Seeing the interaction he frowned. Marvelous, she's a fangirl of one boy and skittish about the other. And finally, Sasuke grunted and answered. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are lots of things I dislike and I don't really like anything. I can't really call it a dream, but I do have an ambition. I want to resurrect my clan and kill a certain man. Naruto looked at the boy and tried not to sneer. Big talk, I know what it's like to kill. About what I expected, Kakashi thought a bit sadly. Well, that was certainly enlightening. All right, we'll begin tomorrow at 6 a.m. sharp. What will our first mission be, sensei? Sakura asked. Actually, it won't be a mission, it will be a test of your survival skills. This test will pit you against me and it will determine if any of you are fit to be genin. A test? Sensei, I don't understand, Sakura said. We just had our test to be ninja a couple days ago. Chuckling, Kakashi shook his head. Oh, that. The academy graduation test is only meant to weed out the hopeless. Only a complete no talent could possibly fail it. Naruto silently clenched his fists and tightened his gaze. He was already starting to dislike this teacher. The test I'm about to give you is the one that determines if you will become ninja or not. What happens to the ones who fail? Sasuke asked. They'll be sent back to the academy for additional training, Kakashi noted gleefully. If you want to become real ninja, you'll have to prove yourselves tomorrow against me. Come to training ground 1 by 6 sharp with all your weapons and gear. Oh, and don't eat breakfast. Why not? Sakura asked. I wouldn't want you vomiting all over the place. I will see you tomorrow. He disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Hey Sasuke-kun, want to get some dinner and go over strategies with me? No, he said and shuffled away. I'm passing tomorrow no matter what. I can't let these two drag me down. Disappointed, she decided to talk to her other teammate. Say Naruto, you know I don't really hate. Naruto was already gone. That night 20 shadow clones swarmed all over training ground 1 while the original Naruto studied forbidden jutsu in his dreams. The Kyuubi kept careful watch and grinned. He knew it was too soon to get the brat to tear off his seal, he would need to carefully manipulate him until the time was right. But being an immortal Biju, he knew how to be patient. Chapter 3, The Bell Test. The alarm clock went off at 5:15. As Naruto woke up, he groggily made his way to the bathroom. All the bunchins he'd sent out last night had dispelled once they were done with their work. With all their memories, he now had a good idea of the training ground one's terrain and all the best spots for possible ambushes. He also knew where all the things his clones had set up were. After a hot shower and getting dressed in his beloved orange jumpsuit, he packed on his supplies, including a whole bunch of brand new equipment. He then performed a jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 30 clones came to life packing the tiny apartment. They fled out the door and window and raced to training ground 1. Naruto grinned. He had no idea what the test involved, only that it had something to do with survival training and would pit him and his new team against their sensei. Whatever happened, he intended to pass today. There was no way he was going back to the academy. He went out into the still dark morning filled with excitement. At the very center of the training ground were 3 old wooden posts. Naruto headed straight for them. Not wanting to be late, he'd gotten here a full 15 minutes early. He had also skipped breakfast as he'd been told to. He was surprised to see he wasn't the first one to arrive. Sitting cross-legged in front of the middle post, Sasuke eyed him as he entered the clearing. "Sasuke," he said with a polite nod. "Naruto," Sasuke answered. That was it for the conversation between them. Naruto leaned against the post to Sasuke's right and waited. A few minutes later, Sakura arrived. She eagerly sat down next to Sasuke and began talking to him. "Are you excited about the test, Sasuke-kun?" "No." Yeah, me neither. Do you think it will be really hard?" "Probably. Yeah, I think so too, but as long as you're here I'm sure we'll pass. Even if we have to put up with Naruto to do it." "Shut your mouth, Sakura." Both Sakura and Sasuke looked over at him in surprise. What did you say?" Sakura got up to her feet and began shaking a fist at him. She had clobbered him for a lot less than that. He looked at her with cold blue eyes and spoke with a harsh voice she had never imagined him to have. "I'm standing right here, there's no reason for you to insult me. I know I'm not your precious little Sasuke-kun, but that doesn't mean I'll be your whipping boy anymore. We're all ninja now and on the same team, start treating me with a little respect. Especially since I'm going to be Hokage one day. Like an idiot like you could ever be Hokage," she shouted. The way he'd treated her yesterday had caught her totally off guard. But having had some time to think about it, she had decided to remind him of his place. She would not be talked down to by a fool like him. Especially not in front on Sasuke. "You've been saying that for years now and I'm sick of it. You should be grateful just to be on a team with me and Sasuke. Do you even know how lucky you are?" He laughed. "Oh, I know I'm lucky, I have lots of luck, all of it bad." "Naruto," she growled and took a step towards him, obviously intent on delivering another of her beatings. But to her surprise he did not cower or run as he always did. He stepped towards her and took a fighting stance. "Don't start something unless you're ready to finish it, Haruno." She froze. This person standing in front of her couldn't be the same boy she'd shared a class with for the last 4 years, impossible. The way he was looking at her made her feel afraid. "Knock it off, both of you." Sasuke was still seated. "Do you really want to start a fight right before our test?" He looked at Sakura. "The Dobi has a point, he is our teammate now, and you are going to have to treat him a little differently." He then turned to Naruto. "As for you, if you want respect dead last, earn it." "I'm sorry, Sasuke-kun." She immediately bowed in apology, to Sasuke not to Naruto, and sat back down. Naruto stared down at the serene Uchiha. "I'm not the dead last anymore." "We'll see." "Yeah, we will, you arrogant jerk." He went back to his post and decided to sit down. The 3 of them waited in silence as the night sky was starting to lighten. Better than 3 hours later, the sun was now well above the horizon and they were still waiting. "I wonder if he ran into another black cat," Naruto muttered. That actually drew a small chuckle from Sasuke. Naruto checked his watch again, it was 9:12. His stomach let out a small growl. "Okay, enough of this crap." He reached into a pouch and pulled out something in a plain brown wrapper. Tearing it open, he had what looked like a granola bar. "Hey, what's that?" Sakura asked. "It's a rations bar," Naruto explained. "This is what real ninja carry out in the field. 1 bar gives you all the energy and nutrition you need for a whole day." Sakura rolled her eyes. "I know it's a rations bar, idiot. What are you doing with it?" "What do you think I'm going to do with it, genius?" He bit into it and started to slowly chew it. It took him a while and he needed some water to finally get it down. It's like eating wood paste. Sensei told us not to eat anything. Wrong, he said not to have breakfast, Naruto pointed out. I didn't know how long this test would take, so I brought food with me in case it was an all-day thing. And anyway, after keeping us waiting twice, I'm not worried about what he said. Naruto took another big bite. It tasted lousy, but at least it filled your stomach. As she watched him cram the rest of the bar in his mouth, Sakura was reminded of how hungry she was. Ah, I don't suppose you have any more, do you? He looked at her knowingly. I might. Why? He wants to hear me beg. Cha, like that's going to happen. No, no reason. Naruto shrugged and drank some water from his canteen to get rid of the taste. Just before 10, Kakashi came strolling along with a large alarm clock and 2 bentos in his arms. You're late. Sakura howled and jumped up. Naruto and Sasuke came to their feet as well. Sorry, I got lost on the road of life. He nonchalantly placed the alarm clock and bentos atop the middle post and pressed down the timer. There, it's set for noon. From one of the pouches on his vest he took out 2 shiny objects on strings. Your task is to take these 2 bells from me before time expires. Anyone who fails to get a bell will be tied up and not allowed to eat a lunch. But more importantly, they will automatically fail and be sent back for remedial training at the academy. But sensei, Sakura spoke up. There are only 2 bells. Kakashi nodded his head merrily. Good observation, Sakura. That of course means that at most only 2 of you can pass this test. The 3 students all looked at one another. They had all come here assuming the test was meant for them to pass or fail as a team. Now it looked like it was every man for himself. Naruto and Sasuke were both determined to get a bell no matter what. Sakura was determined to get one with Sasuke so that their love would have a chance to survive. All 3 of them looked at each other with open mistrust. And here we go again, Kakashi thought sadly. You are free to use any weapons or techniques you know. Come at me with the intent to kill or you won't stand a chance. If we kill you, do we get in trouble? Naruto asked and sounded completely serious. Kakashi lifted an eyebrow. He knew the boy had taken out Mizuki. He seems pretty eager to kill another sensei. If you can kill me, not only will you not get in trouble but you'll be guaranteed promotion. Kakashi did not like the way Naruto grinned at hearing that. Somehow I don't think he'll have any trouble coming at me with the intent to kill. He didn't think Sasuke would have that problem either, given his serious and brooding gaze. Sakura though was already looking nervous. Well then, ready, steady, go. 4 figures leapt away and out of sight. Naruto had noticed a weakness in the Kage Bunshin jutsu. At the time the clones were created they knew everything the original knew. Plans and detailed orders could be given without a word being spoken. When the clone vanished, the original gained all his knowledge and experience. But in the time between there was no connection between him and his clones. If he wanted them to know what he knew now, he would have to physically tell them. If he could have somehow maintained a mental connection to his clones while they existed, he could have passed on everything Kakashi had said and also fine-tuned his plans. As it was, he'd sent them out with just a general notion of what would happen. Also, he couldn't sense his own clones. He had to hope they had gotten where he needed them. This jutsu would kick even more butt if I could maintain a connection with all of them. When I start inventing my own jutsus, I'll work on that. But that was for the future. Right now he needed to get one of those bells to pass this test. He closed his eyes and took a deep whiff of the air. It was hard to distinguish, but he could smell his own scent from the nearby trees. He thought perhaps 15 to 20 of his clones were nearby. As Naruto watched, Kakashi leapt down from his hiding spot and casually began to stroll along a clearing, obviously inviting attack. Naruto held back. Despite what Sakura and a lot of people thought, he wasn't an idiot. His poor grades had been the result of indifferent teachers and his own lack of interest. Now that he had decided to get serious about things, he was using his brain and not just acting on impulse. Kakashi was a jonin. In Konoha only about 1 ninja in every 50 achieved that rank. To have made it to such an elite status, he had to have skills despite his lackadaisical attitude thus far. Know your enemy and know yourself, and in 1,000 battles you shall never be in danger. That was a quote from an ancient general that was also the 50th rule of ninja conduct. Before he attacked, he wanted to see what his enemy could do. And if he knew Sasuke. Out of some nearby branches several kunai and shuriken flew. They caught Kakashi unprepared and riddled his chest and arms. Then there was a puff of smoke and a log appeared in his place. Naruto nodded, as he'd expected. Sasuke had gone ahead and attacked. The arrogant bastard probably thought he could beat Kakashi single-handed just because he was an Uchiha. As he watched Kakashi leapt back down into the open again, this time he simply stood there. He even took out a book and seemed to be reading. Sasuke leapt down from his own hiding spot and approached him. "What are you doing?" Sasuke demanded. Kakashi glanced up from his reading material. "Oh, I just want to see how this chapter ends. You can go ahead and attack me, it shouldn't make any difference." With a furious shout, Sasuke went at him. He delivered a series of kicks and punches that actually forced Kakashi to momentarily toss aside his book and concentrate on the fight. As he blocked a leaping kick from Sasuke, the boy was in position to reach for the bells that were now tied to his belt and just missed them. Kakashi leapt back and nodded at him with surprise. "Not bad, Sasuke, you definitely do the Uchiha clan proud, but still not quite good enough." "Sasuke!" a girl shouted. Sakura ran over to his side, a kunai in her hand. Though her knees were shaking slightly, she faced Kakashi with a determined look. "Sasuke-kun, let's get the bells together so we can stay a team." "Oh, and what about your other teammate?" Kakashi inquired innocently. "What about him?" Sakura asked. "Sasuke-kun is the only one who matters. If one of us has to fail, it should be Naruto. I don't care what happens to him anyway." Beneath his mask, Kakashi frowned. Naruto was close enough to hear every word. Her attitude didn't surprise him or hurt him. It just confirmed what he'd finally realized, that trying to befriend people was a waste of time. Sasuke looked over at her and at the way she was shaking and how she was holding her kunai. With a grim expression, he stepped up beside her. "I'm sorry, Sakura." With a clean motion, he delivered a hard chop right to the back of her head. Sakura gasped and dropped right in front of him. From his hiding spot, Naruto widened his eyes. "Whoa, he's even more of a bastard than I thought." If Naruto's reaction was surprise, Kakashi's was as well, with a large measure of disgust and fury as well. "What did you just do? Why did you attack your teammate?" "She's not ready to be a ninja yet," he said stoically. "It'll be safer for her to go back to the academy. If she were to fight beside me, she'd only get in my way, she wouldn't even make a decent diversion." "Oh, I see," Kakashi spoke. For some reason there was a bitter resentment in his voice. "Some teammates are worth helping and some are not. I'm an Avenger," Sasuke spoke solemnly. "I have to acquire power as fast as I can't let anyone get in the way of that." Kakashi looked at him with his single eye. "I take back what I said a moment ago about you making your clan proud. You're trash, Sasuke. No, you're lower than trash." The proud Uchiha stood there for a second in shock. Then furiously started to perform hand signs. He never got a chance to finish his jutsu. Kakashi covered the space separating them in the blink of an eye and delivered a kick into Sasuke's gut that sent him flying with a cry of pain. While still in the air, Kakashi drove his fist right into the boy's face, smashing him into the ground and leaving his bloodied and unconscious. With the fight now over in spectacular fashion, the Jonin sensei did a quick check on Sasuke's pulse and Sakura's. Apparently satisfied, he walked away from where they were before again taking out his book. "So I guess it's my turn now." Kakashi looked up to see he was surrounded by about 200 clones. Sighing, the sensei carefully put away his book. "Yes it is, show me what you can do, Naruto." Chapter 4, The Worst. "Yes it is, show me what you can do, Naruto." At those words every one of the clones grinned. In the next second a hail of kunai and shuriken came at him from all directions. "I see he really is taking the whole intent to kill thing seriously." Kakashi was punctured by 100 different weapons. His form vanished in a puff of smoke to be replaced by another log. The clones halted their attacks and began looking around. From a nearby tree, Kakashi noted the lack of panic on the part of the clones. Obviously he hadn't expected that opening attack to actually take him out. Kakashi had read the personnel files on all three of his students. Nothing in Naruto's had even hinted he was capable of this level of organization and self-control. He knew of course from the Hokage that Naruto had gained the Kage Bunshin and used it to kill the traitor Mizuki. But that didn't explain the sternness of attitude that was on display. According to his file, Naruto was hot-tempered, emotional, reckless, and overconfident. None of those personality traits were on display at the moment. Did the incident with Mizuki change him that much? Kakashi wondered. Or was he always hiding his real self? He's up there. One of the clones suddenly shouted. More kunai and shuriken forced him to leap out of his hiding place. I'm not Mizuki, you know, he said pleasantly. He took out 6 or 7 clones as he landed. I know, the original called out. He was standing in the same spot watching as his clones surged after Kakashi. That's why I'll only kill you if I have to. The clones came at him, all of them with kunai in their hands. Despite their numbers, they weren't much of a threat. With superior strength, speed, and fighting ability, he had no trouble taking out the clones as they got near. Dozens exploded into smoke as more came forward to take their place. Kakashi kept leaping back to make sure none of them got behind him. I'm afraid frontal attacks won't. Snap. He felt a wire break beneath his foot. He sensed more than felt the danger and leapt up just in time to avoid a tree branch swinging down. Had he been in that spot, he would have been mashed against the tree trunk and probably knocked out. At the very least, he'd have been hurt and slowed. You set up a trap. That's AACK. The ground he landed on gave way and he fell into a pit. Actually, I set up about 50 traps, the original said smugly. Doing pranks teaches you how to prepare. Before his clones could reach the pit though, Kakashi leapt out and onto a nearby tree branch. Damn it, Naruto thought. I should have filled the pit with sharpened stakes. But I didn't think it would be okay to kill him. Oh well, it can't be helped. He watched as Kakashi was again forced to jump to avoid being turned into a pincushion. The fact he'd lost so many clones didn't matter at all. For all the Jonin's superior skill, he was being pushed in the direction Naruto wanted. Kakashi again landed facing the oncoming clones. He didn't set off any traps this time. But instead 3 clones jumped him from behind. These were not among the 200 he had started with, which Kakashi had kept careful track of. No, these were among the 30 he had created early this morning specifically for this reason. They held his arms momentarily in place. If he could not form hand signs, he could not work a substitution and escape. Another of his clones leapt and delivered a punch to the immobilized Kakashi's face. Only to have him vanish in a puff of smoke. The original Naruto gasped. No way. How did you? Without warning, Kakashi popped out of the ground behind him. Naruto had no chance to react before receiving a hard punch to the back of his head. He was turned off like a light and dropped to the ground. Throughout the training ground there were pops as all his clones were dispelled. Checking his pulse, Kakashi confirmed the boy was only unconscious. He tossed him over one shoulder and headed back to where Sasuke and Sakura were peacefully resting. A loud ringing woke him up. There was an ache in the back of his skull. As he slowly came fully awake, he realized his arms were bound tight and he was tied to one of the poles. Looking over, he saw that Sasuke and Sakura were in a similar state. You know, I don't usually eat so much for lunch, but I did have a decent workout. Kakashi adjusted his mask as he stood up. 2 empty bentos were at his feet. He glanced at Naruto. I actually worked up quite an appetite thanks to you. I have to admit you did pretty well. Going over to the central post where Sasuke was tied, he shut off the alarm. Of course you still failed in the end. Naruto glared at him. How did you get away at the end? I know you didn't work a jutsus. I had your arms held. The me you caught was a cage bunshin I created when I was in that pit and momentarily out of your line of sight. I actually worked an earth-style jutsu to get underneath you. The main mistake you made was just standing there like you did while you let your clones do the work. It pointed the real you out to me. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known which you to take out. Kakashi came over to him and leaned in close. You're not as clever as you think, Naruto, Kakashi said in a low whisper just for him. Naruto looked back at him and got the definite feeling the Jonin knew a lot more than he was letting on. Sasuke was curious about what he was hearing. He'd been unconscious and completely missed Naruto's fight. He'd assumed the dobi would have lasted all of about 10 seconds, but from what Kakashi was saying it actually sounded like he had given a good performance. That wasn't important now. I want another chance, Sasuke said in a low growl. That wasn't a fair test of my skills. Kakashi looked at him with a happy smile hidden away. There's nothing fair about a ninja's life or career, get used to it. As for another chance, you'll all get one, in 6 months once you complete remedial training. He stepped back and gave them a dramatic thumbs down. You all fail. Not only do you fail, but I have to tell you that of the 6 teams have been asked to test, you were by far the worst of the lot. Don't put me in the same category as Sakura and the Dobi. Sasuke said angrily. I'm not like them. Well, that's true, Kakashi admitted. They aren't lower than trash. Sasuke looked furious enough to bite through his ropes. Don't call me that. I'm an Uchiha. How dare you say that to me? Being an Uchiha doesn't make you deserving of respect, Sasuke, Kakashi said sadly. Though a lot of the people of this village seem to have forgotten that. Whether you should be respected or not is based solely on what you do and not on who you are. Sasuke looked sullen but kept quiet. Tell me, do any of you even know what the purpose to this test was? Duh, to try and get the bells, of course. Naruto snapped. Wrong. The real goal wasn't to get the bells. All three of them looked at him blankly. Then what was it, sensei? Sakura asked in a timid voice. What had happened had completely shattered her self-confidence. Teamwork, Kakashi snapped. The entire point of this was to see if you could come together and work as a team. What do you mean work as a team? Naruto yelled. Being beaten and tied up like a pig at market was seriously irritating him. There were only 2 bells and you said from the start that only 2 of us could pass. Kakashi merely nodded. That's right, the test was deliberately set up to turn you against one another. The object was to see if any of you could overcome your own self-interests and put the need of your team first. But instead, he turned to Sakura. You decided that Sasuke was the only one worth fighting for. From your own mouth you said you didn't care about what happened to Naruto. Just because you don't personally like someone doesn't mean you turn your back on them. In your ninja career you will be assigned to all sorts of missions with different teams made up of different personalities. Are you expecting to like every single person you work with? You need to watch out for all those you work with, not just the ones you happen to like. You don't get to just pick and choose who's worthy of your help. Ashamed by this critical, and accurate, description of her, she put her head down in shame. He next turned to Naruto. Your skills are pretty advanced and as an individual ninja you did better than any other candidate I've tested before. Sasuke looked up, not believing what he was hearing. The Dobi did that well. But, I noticed that all your elaborate plans didn't include your teammates. Obviously you must have set up those traps before I explained the test to you. At a time when you would have assumed it was a team test with all of you passing or failing together. Did you at least try and form a plan with the others? No, he answered brusquely. And why not? Because if I'd tried to I would have just been ignored, he said bitterly. The Tem wouldn't have wanted to listen to any plan I came up with and Sakura would have just gone along with her, Sasuke-kun. Hearing the extreme bitterness in his voice, Sakura looked over at him. Have I really been that unfair? She had never ever thought about it from his side. Never stopped to think how her shouts and punches might have affected him. He was an obstacle between her and Sasuke and that was all. But after what Sasuke had done, all her assumptions were now open to question. From what I've seen that's probably true, Kakashi said. Sakura flinched at his judgment while Sasuke had no reaction. But you might have tried and put the team ahead of yourself. You also could have joined in with Sasuke and Sakura. Instead you deliberately chose to stand back and watch. I wanted to see how strong you were before I made my move, Naruto said defensively. Scouting the enemy isn't a bad tactic, Kakashi said. But I can't agree with deliberately sacrificing your teammates to gain a personal advantage. He turned to look at Sasuke. And finally there is you, the Avenger. Kakashi looked hard at him. You attacked your own teammate Sasuke, for no other reason than you thought she would get in your way. Let me tell you something, Uchiha Sasuke. In the world of the ninja those who violate the rules and laws are called trash. However, those who don't take care of their comrades are worse than trash. And that is what you are. Kakashi turned around and slowly walked away. We're done now. All of you report back to the academy tomorrow morning at 10. You'll be permitted to take the test again once you complete 6 months remedial training. Sensei, Sakura called out. Aren't you going to untie us? No, any ninja should be an escape artist, you're on your own. And with that he leapt away and was gone. The ropes were so tight that they barely permitted any movement at all. Because he was stronger than he should have been, Naruto had more luck moving his arms than the others. After 10 minutes he finally got a hand on one of his kunai. After 10 more minutes he cut through one of the ropes and was able to free himself. Sasuke looked at him and didn't say a word. Naruto was not surprised. He knew Sasuke would rather die of thirst than ask anyone for help, especially not from the idiot dead last. Sakura looked over at him sadly. I don't suppose you'd cut me loose, would you? Naruto then did something that truly surprised her. He smiled and nodded. Sure, Sakura-chan, no problem. He came over and began slicing into her ropes. After only a minute she was able to wriggle free. Rubbing her arms she looked at him and lowered her eyes, feeling ashamed. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I thought you hated me. I did, he said, making her flinch a bit. But if we can, I'd like to start over. He held out his hand to her. I know we're not teammates anymore, but who knows? Maybe we will be again. Let's be friends, Sakura-chan, and if we ever become teammates again, let's watch out for each other. Smiling with relief, she gladly took his hand. Naruto, I'd like that. And I'm so sorry for the way I've treated you. Please forgive me, you didn't deserve any of it. It's already forgiven, Sakura-chan. His warm smile set her mind at ease. This was the Naruto she remembered. His kunai still in hand, he turned to Sasuke. Come on, help me cut him down. I didn't ask for help, Sasuke said loudly. Naruto sighed and began cutting the rope. I know, but even if the team's been dissolved, think of this as one comrade taking care of another, okay? You don't have to ask and I don't expect any thanks. That's right, Sakura agreed and cut with her own kunai. Even if it's too late, let's act like teammates should now. She looked up at him. I forgive you for hitting me, Sasuke. She quickly lowered her eyes again to concentrate on freeing him. He was soon released and out of the ropes. Sasuke rubbed his arms a bit and looked at Naruto and Sakura. Thanks, he said quickly and quietly. Well, this is a surprise. Kakashi leapt out of the woods. I honestly didn't think the three of you would listen to what I said. Sakura looked at him in surprise. Sensei, what are you doing here? I thought you had long gone. Actually, I've been observing you this whole time. I decided to give you one last chance to pass my test. What do you mean? Sakura asked. I mean, I wanted to see if you would show you cared for your teammates when you thought there was nothing to gain by it. I am very pleased to see that maybe you get it. This doesn't make up for your behavior while trying to get the bells, but it's enough to make me at least reconsider. Does that mean we pass? Sasuke asked. What it means is that I'll take you on as a team for a probationary period, he told them. Instead of spending the next 6 months at the academy, I'll let you act as an active squad. However, if I see any signs you are forgetting what you've learned here today, I'll disband Team 7 and send all of you back to the academy. Is that clear? They all nodded their heads. Very well then, under those conditions Team 7 passes. We'll meet tomorrow at the small footbridge near the academy at 10 to begin our first mission. As the three new genin all shouted in triumph, Kakashi carefully eyes Naruto. His actions had surprised him, and it was mainly due to his words to Sakura and Sasuke that he had decided to give them a chance. But he couldn't help but feel there was something off about the boy and the way he behaved. Hey sensei, Naruto said. Shouldn't you treat your new team to a meal to help us celebrate and bond? The other two looked at him speculatively. Sighing, he nodded. Fine, you're probably all really hungry. They cheered and followed him out. As Naruto walked with them, he rubbed his nose. He was still getting used to his enhanced sense of smell, but there was no denying it was useful. As when he'd picked up Kakashi's scent as he struggled to free himself. He'd guessed that if Kakashi was nearby watching, there might still be a chance to pass. So he'd forgiven Sakura and played the part of the good teammate. He looked at Kakashi's back and hid a nasty little smile. Chapter 5, Team Probation. Naruto held Tora out at arm's length. Though his many scratches would soon disappear, he still wanted to throttle the mangy thing. Nice job, team, Kakashi said with his usual over-exuberant tone. We captured our target in record time. Hopefully this will be the last time he escapes. The three members of Team 7 all shared a knowing look behind their sensei's back. This was already the third time they'd had to track down this annoying cat. It had been a little over a month since the bell test. In that time they had been busy performing various mind-numbing and utterly pointless tasks. Their normal routine was to meet at the bridge, wait a couple hours for their sensei to show, mosey over to the tower to be assigned a D-ranked mission, and then complete it. Depending on the nature of the mission and how long it took to complete, they would either return to the tower for a second mission or be dismissed for the day. Naruto was not happy with this. Kakashi had explained that these low-level missions were vital for them to acquire the necessary experience to tackle more difficult tasks. But he honestly couldn't see how catching runaway pets, walking dogs, or cleaning up vacant lots were supposed to help them prepare for anything. He'd assumed once he's passed the test Kakashi would begin showing them all sorts of lethal techniques and amazing jutsus. All their sensei ever seemed to do was stand off to the side reading his little orange book while they worked. He had yet to teach them anything of value. Naruto hadn't wanted to complain to the Hokage, he was still trying to shed the appearance of a whiny kid. He had however gone and just talked to the old man while subtly mentioning he'd like to have someone teach him improve his taijutsu. The Hokage had grinned slightly at that, obviously getting his message. The old man had then replied just as circumspectly, telling him how fortunate he was to have a great ninja like Kakashi as a sensei, and how he should trust in his judgment. So the D ranks continued unabated. Since they'd bagged Tora so quickly they were headed back to the tower for a second mission. When they arrived the fire daimyo's wife was there to retrieve her pet and pay the mission fee. Seeing the way she half-smothered the cat almost made Naruto feel sorry for it. Almost. Another successful mission completed in under 2 hours, the Hokage said with a satisfied grin. Your team seems to be doing quite well, Kakashi. Oh, it's nothing really, Kakashi said pleasantly. His students all grunted and threw imaginary daggers into his back. Since you've gotten done so early, I'll let you choose your next assignment, the Hokage said. You can babysit, paint a fence, or dig up some vegetables. Naruto wanted to scream, none of the above, at the top of his lungs. He wanted a real mission that actually involved using some ninja skills. But throwing a tantrum in front of the old man wouldn't help with changing his image. Kakashi turned back to them with a hidden grin. Well team, what do you think? Whatever, I don't care, Sasuke grumbled. Naruto put on a big grin and turned to his other teammate. What do you want to do, Sakura-chan? The girl looked at him gratefully. Since the bell test their relationship had drastically improved. He no longer asked her out or peppered her with compliments, but he was friendly enough. She was still devoted to getting Sasuke, but was much more reserved around him now. A lot of her confidence seemed to have left her after what he did. She was actually willing to talk to him and treat him as an equal. She wound up talking to him a lot more than she did to Sasuke. Why don't we paint the fence? That will probably be the easiest job. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. That's my vote then. Fine, whatever, Sasuke muttered. Looks like we have a winner, Kakashi said. The Hokage assigned them the mission and they were out the door. Sarutobi watched their departure with a certain satisfaction. When they'd had their test he had used his crystal ball to observe them. Though it had gone horribly wrong at first, he was extremely proud of the way Naruto had acted towards Sakura and Sasuke. Despite all his hardships, the boy had somehow kept a good heart and was beginning to mature into a fine man and ninja. His ability with both shadow clones and with traps had also been impressive, a sign of real limitless potential. Sasuke's talk of being an avenger and caring only for power was troubling, but he had faith that Kakashi would help him find the right path. He also had a secret hope that he and Naruto would be able to form a strong bond and help each other. What is the next order of business? Sarutobi asked. One of his assistants scanned the papers in front of him. We still have that C rank to wave country that needs to be assigned. Sarutobi nodded. Oh yes, the escort mission. He looked at a list of available squads. It was just a low-level C rank, so any competent team would do. Assign Renji and his Genin squad. The assistant made a note on one of his papers. Yes, Hokage-sama. The job was done in 15 minutes time. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura had painted an old faded wood fence a bright shade of yellow. They'd been helped by 20 of Naruto's shadow clones. Naruto had offered to do the whole job himself, but Kakashi insisted that they all had to work. While he sat in a chair reading. When they were done, the homeowner came out and nodded his approval. He paid Kakashi the mission fee. Well, there's still plenty of daylight left, Kakashi said, teasing them. Shall we go for a third? All three students groaned. Chuckling, Kakashi spoke. All right, that'll be it for one day. I'll go report into the tower. You're dismissed for the day. We'll meet again tomorrow at 10. They all knew that meant Kakashi would be there right around noon. Here, he handed each of them 300 ryu. That was 10% of the mission fee, the standard commission for members of a squad. As squad leader, Kakashi was entitled to 20%, while the village would receive the remaining 50. It wasn't much, but it wasn't bad for 15 minutes work. Kakashi vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. With their sensei gone, Sasuke wordlessly turned to go. Sasuke. Would you, maybe wait too? Sakura asked fearfully. No, Sasuke answered flatly and kept right on going. Sakura lowered her head in defeat. She used to believe with total conviction that they would end up together. Now she wasn't so sure. When he knocked her out during their test, that was proof that he didn't respect her. She knew she needed to get his respect but didn't know how. Naruto gave her a friendly pat on the shoulder. Serves you right, you dumb fangirl. Don't worry about it, Sakura-chan, he'll come around eventually. She looked up at him with a grateful smile. Do you really think so, Naruto-kun? Sure, he said and turned to go. See you tomorrow. Hey Naruto. Wait. What is it, Sakura? You want to get something to eat? I'm really hungry and I don't feel like going home just yet. Unlike with Sasuke, she felt no nervousness about asking Naruto. Since he had stopped trying to date her, she felt completely comfortable being alone with him. Can we get ramen? Sure, why not? They were sitting together at Ichiraku's, each enjoying a bowl of ramen and some pleasant conversation. So how long do you think it'll be before we actually do a real mission? Sakura asked. About another 5 months, Naruto said morosely. He'll probably have us do these dumb D ranks the whole time we're on probation. Sakura grimaced. Do you really think so? Well, I don't know for sure or anything, I hope not. But the way my life usually goes, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think we'll be doing this that long, Sakura said cheerfully. I talked to Ino and she says her sensei promised them they'd move on to better missions within a few more weeks. Their sensei is the old man's son, right? Naruto asked. Yes, Sarutobi Asuma. Sakura agreed. Well, their sensei might, as for ours. Naruto took one hand and covered his left eye. With his other he mimed holding a book open. We'll go on a more challenging mission when I think you're ready. Oh, and you missed some dog poop over there. Sakura burst out into laughter. That's perfect. Well, I've heard him say it often enough. Naruto got back to his ramen. You know, I wouldn't mind these dumb missions half so much if he would actually train us. I mean, isn't a sensei supposed to instruct his students on what they need to know? Sakura nodded her agreement. I know, the way things are we'll end up going on our first mission not knowing anything more than we did when we graduated the academy. For Naruto that wasn't true. He'd spent the last month sparring with his clones while awake and studying the Kibaku Bunshin no Jutsu while asleep. He hoped to have it down soon. He was improving all the time even without his sensei's help. But with it he would have improved even faster. He resented Kakashi and his lackadaisical attitude. From their fight he knew the Jonin was very capable and was willing to bet he knew a lot of things that would be really useful. It was frustrating as hell knowing Kakashi could be helping him grow strong but was choosing not to out of simple indifference. He needed to become powerful and having Kakashi as his sensei was getting in his way. Hey, look who it is. Team Probation. A loud abrasive voice called from the street. He and Sakura both turned to see Kiba grinning at them with his little white dog sitting on his head. Standing next to him were Shino and that quiet weirdo Hinata. It annoyed him that the other teams knew they had been placed on probation. Rumors in Konoha always spread fast. Don't you two look sweet? Kiba barked. You on a date? Don't be a baka. Sakura yelled at him. I want to be with Sasuke-kun. There's nothing wrong with having something to eat with a friend and teammate. I don't know, Kiba teased. You look pretty chummy. Normally Naruto would have jumped in, but his attention was momentarily distracted. He was looking at the girl in the bulky tan jacket. There was a pungent scent coming off of her in strength. Why is she feeling jealous? As soon as she noticed he was looking at her, Hinata's face became a deep crimson. Kiba-kun, let's go please. She hurriedly grabbed him by the arm and pulled him down the street. He protested but let himself be dragged away. How did they end up passing the test? Sakura muttered angrily. She looked over and saw her teammate still staring in the direction Kiba and the others had gone in. Hey Naruto, don't let what that idiot said bother you. What? Oh, right, Sakura-chan. He smiled and turned back towards her. What had distracted him hadn't had anything to do with Kiba. When Hinata had noticed him looking at her, a different scent had come out. It was the same scent he got from Sakura whenever she would begin to stare at Sasuke. It was a scent that meant physical attraction. No way, it couldn't be. Is Hinata attracted to me? It seemed wholly impossible. No girl liked him, that was a fact. There was no way Hinata could like him the way Sakura liked Sasuke. And yet, that was what his nose was telling him. Quickly shaking his head, he put it out of his mind for now. A week later they were reporting to the tower just after 12 noon for an assignment. The Hokage eyed the squad with interest. Well, Kakashi, do you think your team is ready to handle a mission outside the village? Instantly all 3 students perked up. Kakashi sighed heavily. They'll probably all either get lost or killed, but I suppose there's no avoiding it. He nodded his head. Yes, Hokage-sama. I feel Team 7 is competent, if just barely, to handle such a mission. Very well, we've received a request to provide security for a small festival in the village of Hikaido in northern Fire Country. It should only take a week's time and be simple enough to complete. It's a C-rank mission. All right, Naruto shouted. It's about time. Quiet Dobi, Sasuke said. But even he looked a little excited. Kakashi grinned and took the assignment from the Hokage. All right team, we'll be leaving tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. sharp and be gone for about 7 days. Go home and make whatever preparations you need to. Meet me at the gate tomorrow with all your weapons and equipment, and don't be late. Team 7 was about to get their first real taste of ninja life. Chapter 6, A Promise. That night Kakashi headed out to one of the bars. It was sort of an informal tradition for him. Entering the smoke-filled bar, he couldn't help but chuckle silently at the mission he was leading. He'd come of age in the midst of the Third Great Ninja War. When the village had been fighting on multiple fronts and was short of people. He'd been assigned to his team and his beloved sensei. Back then there was no time to take it easy with D ranks, and training at the academy had been strictly geared towards readying you for life and death combat. Minato had broken them in with short-range patrols, and before long taken them out on real missions. He was a veteran with over 50 enemy kills by the time the war ended. Then he'd gone into the Anbu and become a Black Ops legend. His last mission before taking on his team had involved blowing up a drug lab in Nagamo and exterminating the gang involved. In Fire Country, if the local police faced a difficult problem, putting in a quiet call to the Hokage was always an option. Navigating the crowded bar, he spotted a friendly face and was waved over to a little table. Kakashi, you hear the latest? Asuma asked as he sat down. The second he heard his friend's grim tone, he knew it had to be bad. No, what? Renji and his squad, Asuma began as he lit a fresh cigarette. They're all gone, KIA. Kakashi grimaced. 4 new names were going on the memorial stone. He tried to picture Renji. A redhead with tattoos on his face and neck. The Chunin had only been promoted by the Hokage a year or so ago and was in his early 20s. He didn't know any of the genin he'd been in charge of. What happened? It's pretty damn rare to lose a whole squad except in wartime. Was he on some sort of special mission? Asuma shook his head. That's the weird thing. They were in wave protecting some bridge builder from bandits. Just a typical escort mission. So what happened? No one knows. The Hokages sent out an Anbu squad to investigate. There were no survivors and so no witnesses. All that's known so far is they and the client were ambushed along a road near his home. Bandits? Kakashi asked, sounding doubtful. Any Chunin was a match for at least 50 well-armed men. Only a very large, or very desperate, group of outlaws would attack a squad of ninja. Doesn't look it, Asuma said and took a long drag from his cig. There were no other bodies at the scene. Kakashi nodded. Even if they were somehow caught by surprise and overwhelmed, they would not have gone down easy. Ninja then, maybe Nuke Nin. Asuma nodded. That's the assumption, but whoever did this was smart enough not to leave a calling card. We may never find out who was responsible. Kakashi frowned but did not disagree. Wave Country was largely swamp. By the time the Anbu arrived to investigate, most of the physical evidence would be gone. Whoever did this would likely get away with it. As he drank with his friend, Kakashi wondered what exactly had happened to Renji. Had they been targeted by people with a grudge against Konoha? Kami knew there were plenty of those out there. Had they somehow just run across the wrong people at the wrong time? Had they been attacked by a group targeting their client? That seemed the least likely. Rogue ninja were expensive. Who in their right mind would spend that kind of money to kill a bridge builder? In any case, he took the news as a reminder that any mission could turn lethal at any time. He would make sure to keep an eye on his kids. As Naruto locked the door to his apartment and headed to the gate, he had a huge smile on his face. Not one of the usual smiles that covered up the hurt and rage he felt. This was an honest smile. He was excited at the prospect of his first real mission and of the idea of actually leaving Konoha for a while. When he'd been a child, he'd often thought of running away, of escaping this horrible place and all its cruelties. Some nights he would dream about it. The idea would fill him with hope and excitement. But he was always afraid too. He didn't know what was out there beyond the village walls. What if the people there all hated him too? And what if he left and never saw Gigi again? The idea of leaving forever at once tempted and tormented him. Arriving 20 minutes early, he was glad to see he was the first to get there. The 50-foot-high gates were open, of course. Though it was early morning, there was light traffic as carts and people on foot came and went. For a ninja village, it was surprisingly easy for people to come and go. Merchants arrived all the time with the goods people demanded, local farmers came with the food people needed, and the civilians were free to come and go as they pleased. Being a ninja, he was not. He could not leave the village unless he was on a mission from the Hokage. Standing there, his heart was pounding. He could see the road that seemed to stretch out forever. He had no idea what Hokkaido was like, but for him it seemed as foreign and exotic a place as Iwa or Suna. It was somewhere else, somewhere different, and the idea of going there and leaving this place for a time had him grinning from ear to ear. About 10 minutes later, Sasuke and Sakura arrived together. Naruto had no doubt they had run into one another on the way here, and Sakura had decided to tag along. Amazingly, Sasuke actually looked to be in a good mood for once. He at least was tolerant, and Sakura walked at his side. She was beaming, a content look was on her face, and her eyes locked onto Sasuke. Enjoy it while you can, you dumb fangirl. His good moods never last long. When he'd finally given up on her, he'd realized just how pathetic he must have appeared to everyone. He'd treated her the same way she treated Sasuke. He'd made a fool of himself again and again in the desperate hope that somehow or other it would win him some approval. It never did, of course, and the more he'd done for her, the worse she'd treated him. It was amusing to see the same happen to her now. He could already tell what would happen. She would read too much into the fact he was willing to tolerate her right now. She would get her hopes up. Then later, when he was back to his same old moody self, she would be crushed to learn nothing had changed. For someone who's supposed to be so smart, she sure is a moron when it comes to him. Then again, I wasn't any better. In an odd way, he owed Mizuki his thanks. No matter how painful the experience, he had finally learned the truth. Not just about what he was, but that he could never hope to win people over. No matter how much it hurt, it was still better to face the truth and deal with things as they were, not as you wanted them to be. I guess that's part of growing up. He kept his thoughts well hidden and greeted his teammates. The three of them settled in for what they expected to be a 2-hour wait. But to the amazement of the entire team, Kakashi came strolling along, book in hand, at exactly 8. "You're actually on time," Sakura cried out. "A mission from the Hokage is serious business and needs to be treated as such," Kakashi said pleasantly. "Does that mean meeting us each day doesn't count as serious business?" Naruto asked. "That's right," Kakashi said while reading his little orange book. If looks could kill, he'd have burst into flames there and then. "All right team, let's go. 2 days to get there, 3 for the festival, and 2 to come back." He walked out of the village with his team trailing him. "Try not to get lost or killed, okay?" The 2-day trip there went by without incident. Kakashi had them sleep in their sleeping bags while keeping a watch. Naruto had offered to have his clones take care of all that, but as with their D ranks, Kakashi insisted that everyone do their part. Though they would just be acting as security, Kakashi made a point of treating it like a serious mission. He wanted them to practice the same habits they would need on more important and more dangerous work. Though Hokkaido was designated a village, it was actually a prosperous small town of about 60,000. It was the capital of its prefecture. Entering the village, it was easy to see the preparations people were making. Streets were being swept clean, and everywhere, on every door and window, people were displaying flowers or green branches. In the middle of the village there was a large open-air marketplace that was crowded with stalls offering different games and tasty foods. All the people were smiling and in a fine mood. Naruto at first felt a little weird because the people here weren't glaring at him or ignoring him. When he stopped to think about it, he realized that made sense. The people here didn't know who he was. To them he was just a kid with some weird scars. Having people smile at him and treat him the way they treated his teammates was definitely strange. When you grow up being treated a certain way, you just accept that's how things are, and how they are meant to be. Even if you hate it, you just figure that if everyone is treating you that way, it must be for some reason. His mind understood the reason for it now, but he still found he was so ingrained to being hated and ignored he had trouble accepting normal treatment. Entering the village, Kakashi had asked the local residents where he might find the mayor and had been directed to the open-air market. There they found him. The mayor was a middle-aged man with a wide belly dressed in plain work clothes. When they first saw him, he had a hammer in his hand and was helping put a stand up. "We don't worry much about formality here," Mayor Binya told them. "Thank you for coming to provide security." He glanced at Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke worriedly. I had expected your team to be made up of adults." "There's no need for concern," Kakashi assured him. "Despite their ages, all the members of my team are real ninja while I am an elite jonin. I promise you we can handle things during your festival. We'll take care of crowd control and see to it no one causes trouble." "Crowd control?" Binya blinked at him. "Our own police force can take care of that. That's not why you were hired." Now Kakashi looked surprised. "I'm sorry, but the request was for security during the 3 days and nights of your festival. Was that a mistake?" "No, you are here to provide security for the next 3 days. But not for the festival." Beneath his mask, Kakashi frowned. "Then what are we providing security for?" The mayor looked around nervously. "Please come with me." Binya took them out of the village and into the nearby woods. About a couple miles from Hokkaido they came to a modest wooden house with a small garden. He led them up the stone walkway and opened the door. Inside was a room empty of any furnishing but a small mat. Hanging on the walls were portraits symbolizing various kami and earth spirits. Kneeling on the mat, and apparently deep in meditation, was a young girl of perhaps 8 or 9. She was dressed in a white tunic and loose red pants of a priestess. Her long black hair was tied in a ponytail that ran halfway down her back. She remained where she was kneeling with her eyes closed, not noticing the opening of the door or the 5 sets of eyes that here watching her from it. "Her name is Shizuku, she is our priestess of the spring." Binya whispered. "Your job is to protect her." Kakashi's one visible eyebrow rose. "You went through the expense and trouble of hiring us just to protect a priestess for 3 days." Binya quietly slid the door shut again. "That is the time she will be in danger." "Danger?" Binya nodded solemnly. "I am afraid someone is going to try and murder her." "Murder?" Sakura gasped. Kakashi motioned her to be silent. "Has someone made a threat against her life?" "You could say that. During each of the last 7 festivals our priestess of the spring has been found brutally killed. And all of them were children around Shizuku's age." "7 murders," Kakashi said. Binya nodded. "Do you have any suspects?" "The entire village," the mayor said sadly. Kakashi looked at him stonily. "You're going to have to explain that. Hokkaido is a very old village with many old customs." The mayor looked down in shame. Among them the custom of human sacrifice. In ancient times a pure and innocent child would be offered up to the spirits of the earth. A boon, you might say, her life and blood in return for bountiful harvests and peace within our lands. A lot of places used to practice that, but the custom fell out of favor hundreds of years ago. Kakashi pointed out. The same was true here, until 7 years ago. The land had suffered 4 years of bad crops. Drought, flood, hail, early frost, one natural disaster after another was slowly ruining the local farms and farmers. Then 7 years ago during the festival of spring renewal our priestess went missing. Each year one girl is selected to act as our priestess of the spring. She is brought here to live separate from her family for that time and to devote herself to prayer and meditation. She performs the ritual ceremonies of the festival and then is returned to her family and a new priestess is chosen. But 7 years ago our priestess disappeared on the 2nd night of the festival. He shook his head sadly. She was eventually found in the woods with her throat cut. "Let me guess," Kakashi said coldly. "You had a bountiful harvest that fall." Twitching, the mayor nodded. "No one knows who is responsible, or how many people are involved. The people here don't talk about it. So basically it's one vast conspiracy? Kakashi asked. More or less, Binya admitted. I can't believe people can still be that barbaric in this day and age. Sasuke said. Not everyone feels that way. Binya said. Most people here are disgusted by the murders, but it's impossible to tell who feels differently. Last year I had my entire police force guarding this place around the clock. But the priestess was still found dead, poisoned. It was impossible to tell when it was done or if it was done with the aid of people on the police force. But it was a possibility. So you suspect some of your police are part of the conspiracy? Kakashi asked. That's right, Binya said. That's why I decided to send for you. Only people from outside the village can be trusted to really protect her. The custom is that the sacrifice must be made during the time of the festival. Once it's over she will no longer be the priestess and so be safe. In that case why don't we just take her away somewhere for the next 3 days? Kakashi offered. But the mayor shook his head. The priestess has to be the one to begin and conclude the festival and perform other ceremonies during it. If she isn't here the festival can't take place and the entire village would erupt. She's a Jinchuriki, Naruto said quietly. Kakashi looked at him nervously. What? Binya asked. Naruto glared at him furiously and the Mayo took a couple steps away from the boy. I said she's a Jinchuriki, she's a human sacrifice made for the good of this village, Naruto answered clearly. You people don't give a damn whether she lives or dies so long as the village prospers, right? Naruto, Kakashi said cautiously. Well, she's not going to die. I'll protect her and make sure she lives. That's a promise. Sasuke and Sakura both looked on surprised by his intensity. It was almost as though he felt a personal connection to her for some reason. Kakashi slowly nodded his head. While Naruto is a bit more emotional about it than I would like, I agree. We will protect her with our lives. Chapter 7, Priestess of the Spring. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the mouth-watering aroma of meat cooking over an open flame. All around them the crowd was smiling and cheering. Little children sat on their parents' shoulders looking on at the procession. The grown-ups were dressed in their best yukatas, making them as colorful as the parade. They were in bright colors, greens and purples and reds and yellows and of course orange. Everyone looked so happy, they were all cheering and clapping their hands as their priestess of the spring slowly walked past. She was preceded and followed by school children in their own bright yukatas. The children carried tree branches and flowers, symbols of spring renewal. No one seemed to make a big deal about the 20 orange-clad ninja who walked along keeping the priestess surrounded at all times. Each Naruto kept his eyes scanning the crowd and the rooftop for any possible threat. He spotted some movement on a roof and tensed. He relaxed when he saw it was just a temp. Sasuke and Sakura would keep an eye from the roofs while he was the one who stayed near Shizuku. Kakashi was somewhere in the crowd in a henge. Naruto picked up his scent and knew he was moving along with the procession but had no idea which face was his. Their job was to protect Shizuku for these 3 days and they were all serious about keeping her safe. Flashback. Shizuku was looking calmly at the 4 ninja who had come to keep her safe. Binya had introduced them to her and explained that they would be staying at the shrine during the festival to protect her. The mayor had then excused himself to return to his carpentry. The little priestess had accepted their arrival with a serenity that caught them all off guard. I understand that you will be staying here in the shrine, she said quietly. She smiled at them innocently, a child's smile. No one else ever stays here with me. Nori comes and teaches me and Momo cooks for me, but otherwise I am always alone. I think it will be nice to have company. Do you ever have contact with anyone other than your caretaker and your teacher? Kakashi asked. The little girl shook her head. Everyone else stays away from here and I am not supposed to leave the shrine. You must get really lonely, Naruto said in a soft voice. Shizuku looked at him. Not really, I meditate and pray to pass the time. I know what I am doing is important to the village so I don't mind it. Naruto was very surprised to find he actually believed her. There was not a whiff of resentment coming off her. He knew how hard it was to be all alone so he couldn't begin to understand how she could be alright with it. Don't you have any friends? Anyone you can talk to? He asked. Kakashi glanced at Naruto silently. I have only Nori and Momo, she said. I have a mother I have not seen since I became priestess. I would really like to be with Kasan again. But that is not for me to decide. What do you mean? Whether or not I see Kasan again is karma. What will be, I cannot change it but only accept it. Then you understand the reason why we are here? Kakashi asked carefully. She simply nodded. I know that the 7 priestesses before me were all sacrificed, and that you are here to try and prevent that from happening to me as well. How can you be so calm about it? Sakura blurted out. Some people out there want to kill you. Why aren't you scared? Because I have been taught to accept whatever fate is meant for me. Whatever my karma is, I accept it, she said tranquilly. What if your karma is to be murdered in the next 3 days? Naruto asked. Would you just accept that? Yes, she said. Well, you know what? Fuck karma. Naruto. Sakura said sharply. You can't say that to her. Why not? It's what I honestly feel. You cannot oppose what is meant to be, Shizuku told him politely. She did not seem offended or bothered by what he had just said. We must all bend before the wind. To resist fate only causes suffering. Do you not believe in karma? Hell no, he said with a sneer. 'Cause, my karma was to die all alone, hated by everyone. If I was going to pay attention to what fate or Kami or whoever planned for me, I'd have laid down and died a long time ago. But I decided instead that I was going to be Hokage one day. Not because it was my karma but because it was what I wanted. That's my dream and I'll make it come true no matter what it takes. Shizuku's eyes widened a bit at the passion and fervor of his words. But aren't you afraid of what will happen if you oppose what fate has in store for you? Whenever a soul opposes its natural destiny, only suffering can come as a result. So what? Naruto asked. Life is filled with suffering anyway. If I have to suffer anyway, it might as well be to fulfill my dream. What's your dream? What? She asked in confusion. What's your dream? He repeated. What is it you want from life? She looked a little nervous, a little unsure of herself. I don't have a dream, I am ready to accept whatever comes. Come on, everyone has a dream, everyone has something they want. He pointed at Sasuke. The Tem there wants to kill a certain man and restore his clan. Sasuke said with a slight frown. He pointed at Sakura. She wants to have the Tem fall in love with her and give him a whole herd of little pink-haired kids. Hey, he pointed at Kakashi. He just wants to spend the rest of his life doing nothing but reading porn. Kakashi shrugged. Well, that's true. As for me, I'm going to be Hokage and rule my village. He gave her a big triumphant smile. So what do you want? She looked down and squirmed a little. It is selfish to have personal desires. Maybe, I guess, but everyone has them. Isn't there something you want? She was silent for a while. I want to be with Mama again, she said in a small voice. I just want to be with Mama again. Naruto nodded. That's a good dream. If that's what you want, you have to be willing to fight for it. He stepped forward and she felt him press something into her hand. It was cold and hard. When she saw what it was, she dropped it and stepped back in horror. The kunai fell to the wooden floor with a small clang. I am a priestess. I cannot carry a weapon. I am sworn to harm no living thing. Even if they want to harm you. He picked it up off the floor and held it out to her. If you really want to be with your mother again, if that's your dream, you have to be willing to fight for it. Naruto, she's a priestess, she's not like us. Sakura pointed out. It's our job to protect because we're the ninja, we're the ones who have been taught to fight. I know that, Sakura-chan, and I don't plan on any danger getting anywhere near her. But just in case, she should be willing to protect herself if it comes down to that. Naruto continued to hold the kunai out to her. Dreams don't come true just because you wish for them, you have to fight to make them real. Naruto actually brings up a valid point, Kakashi said. While we will do everything in our power to protect you and keep you safe, it would still be a good idea to be armed. I cannot do violence to any living thing, she said firmly. Then use it to make them think twice. Naruto said. If it comes to it, pull it out and shout for help. Maybe just seeing you're armed will buy you a few seconds. You can at least do that, right? She thought of it. I suppose I could. But to even carry a weapon. It's only for 3 days, Naruto said warmly and slipped the kunai into a wide pocket on her trousers. I'm sure Kami or Fate or whatever will forgive you. I suppose, she said, but continued to look troubled. Walking along the parade route, the original Naruto was the one closest to her. If anything happened, he wanted to be at her side, ready to act. As they walked, Shizuku looked up at him. She was about 6 inches shorter than he was. Naruto, why do you care so much? Huh? The girl smiled at his obvious confusion. I am just curious why you care so much. Your sensei and your teammates want to protect me, but while they are very sincere in their efforts, I can tell it is a mission for them. They will protect me because it is their job. If their job were to kill me, they would try and do it just as well, right? That is how ninja are, I believe. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in discomfort. Well, if it was the mission, we would sort of have to. We have to obey the orders of the Hokage, and you usually don't get to pick and choose which missions you're assigned. We're not supposed to ever let things be personal. But you do, she said softly. You really care about protecting me in a way the others don't. Why is that? It's because I understand your situation, he told her. I know what it's like to be a living sacrifice for a village and have them not even care. He looked at the cheering crowd. They acknowledge you, they cheer for you, but how many of them would be sorry if you were to die so long as the village had a nice harvest? Sure, they care about that, but do any of them care about you and what you have to sacrifice for their sakes? Not damn likely. But aren't ninja expected to lay down their lives for their village? People don't appreciate that. Naruto shook his head. I'm not talking about being a ninja. People respect ninja where I come from, and the ones who die in service to the village have their names carved into a memorial, they are remembered. But I chose to become a ninja, I never chose to be a sacrifice. What do you mean? She asked. How are you a sacrifice? Knowing he'd said too much, he quickly smiled and shook his head. Ah, never mind, forget I said that. The point is, I understand what it's like to be where you are now, and I want to protect you. I want you to live and have your dream. I want you to get to be with your cousin, and I'll make sure it happens. That's a promise, and I never break a promise. That's my ninja way. Looking up at him, Shizuku smiled warmly. Karma will decide if that happens, but thank you for trying to protect me. She placed a hand on his arm. I'm an only child and my father died when I was very young. I always wanted to have an older brother who would protect me and watch out for me. If I'd had one, I would want him to be just like you, Naruto. Really? For someone who had spent his whole life abused and unwanted, hearing that meant a lot to him. Really, she said. Would it be all right if I called you Onisan while you are here? Even if it's just for the festival, I would like to pretend I have an older brother. Sure, he said in genuine happiness. It was strange how such a small thing could mean so much to him. Then please take care of me, Nisan. I will, he said solemnly and placed a gentle hand over hers. I'll keep you safe no matter what. Chapter 8, An Ordinary Village. That first day went really well. There was no sign of trouble. Shizuku performed the opening ceremony to a loud chorus of cheers. She then performed a few other ceremonies before returning to the shrine with Naruto and Kakashi. I want you two to remain here at the festival for the rest of the day and enjoy yourselves, Kakashi said. You mean it, sensei? Sakura said excitedly. What about the mission? Sasuke asked. How can it be all right for us to waste time when there's a job to do? This is part of your mission, Kakashi said. Go through the festival and see if there's anything unusual going on. See if there are any unusual characters about. You mean besides us? Sasuke asked dryly. Oh come on Sasuke-kun, it's a reconnaissance mission. She put her arm through his. And we can pretend it's a date. Before Sasuke could freeze her solid with just a few words, Kakashi cut him off. That's a fine idea. You two pretend to be a couple enjoying the festival. Don't return to the shrine until it ends. Kakashi chuckled as he fled. I really wish he would be more serious about things. Sasuke thought. He turned to see Sakura still holding on to him, her eyes somehow filling most of her face. Don't get any weird ideas, Sakura. I'm only doing this because it's part of the mission. I understand, Sasuke-kun, she said. Cha, my very first date with Sasuke-kun. Just wait until I tell Ino Pig, she'll be so jealous. Kakashi caught up to Shizuku and Naruto, who were surrounded by a wide circle of 20 clones. As usual, he had his little orange book out and was reading it. What kind of book is that? Shizuku asked. Kakashi looked up from his reading material. What kind of book is that? Shizuku repeated. She squinted her eyes a bit. Come Paradise. That's an odd title. Having an 8-year-old questioning him about what he was reading was a bit embarrassing. The fact she was an actual priestess made it worse. Ah, well, you see. It's a dirty book that he reads all the time, Naruto told her matter-of-factly. Kakashi's just a huge perv. Thanks Naruto, Kakashi said wryly. What? You or aren't you? Shizuku shook her head sadly. Shouldn't a teacher set a good example for his students, Kakashi-san? It really isn't good to immerse yourself in impure thoughts, that can lead to immoral behavior, as well as hairy palms and blindness. Hey, Naruto said, is that how come you only have one eye? Kakashi's sweat dropped and put his book away. I'm really losing a lot of face here. Here you go kids, enjoy. The vendor handed each of them an ice cream cone. Arigato. The little blonde girl said. Thank you, an unhappy dark-haired boy said. They both had henges on to appear like ordinary children. A place of this size there was no way people would know everyone. They walked away from the vendor and along the crowded street. It was sunset now and the crowds were a little sparser, many people had gone off to eat or rest. After the sun went down there would be music as various bands would begin to play and couple would dance to the music. This has got to be the all-time best mission ever, Sakura said. In one hand she had her ice cream and in the other she had Sasuke's arm. And if that wasn't perfect enough they were in the middle of a festival. How could anything ever top this? Sasuke looked at her and at her hand on his arm. Though he didn't really like the closeness he let it be since the alternative was to have her weeping and miserable. That would draw attention, at least this way they just looked like a couple kids enjoying themselves. Just so long as you don't forget this is a mission, Sakura. Oh, I haven't forgotten Sasuke-kun, but I haven't seen anything even a little suspicious. Have you? No. She giggled a little. You sound disappointed. This is our first real mission, Sakura, he told her sternly. Our first chance to do something with our skills. I want to succeed, and succeed brilliantly. There's no way to do that if we can't even find the enemy. But what if there's no enemy? She asked. Or what the enemy gave up as soon as they saw their target being protected by ninja. I mean, look around, these are just normal people. I'm sure most of them had nothing to do with the murders. There were probably just a few sickos among them. So long as we keep our eyes open I'm sure Shizuku will be safe. Sasuke did look at the people around them. Children and parents, grandparents, and young couples walked past oblivious and happy. These people weren't any different from the civilians back home. They wouldn't be any sort of threat to real ninja. I guess that's possible. Yeah, which means you can take me dancing. Dancing. Sakura laughed and hugged his arm. It's part of the mission, right Sasuke-kun? He let out a defeated grunt. Worst mission ever. That night Kakashi, Naruto, and Shizuku had dinner bought at the various stalls by Kakashi. The food already in the shrine's small back kitchen had been unceremoniously thrown away. Since the last victim had been poisoned the possibility that the food could already have been doctored had to be considered. I wish we had ramen, Naruto complained as he had some fried squid. Ramen isn't very good for you Nisan, Shizuku said primly. I mostly eat rice with some fish and vegetables. Naruto made a face. I hate vegetables. You should still eat them, they are good for you. She looked at Kakashi. Tomorrow could we get some vegetables to eat too? Kakashi nodded. Sure, that's no problem at all. I've actually been trying to get him to eat more than just ramen myself. He comes by my apartment sometimes with bags filled with green stuff, Naruto shivered. They're good for you Nisan. But I hate them. Kakashi ate his dinner quietly and listened to the byplay between them. Following dinner a couple of Naruto's clones cleaned up as Shizuku began her evening prayers. Naruto, come and take a walk with me for a bit, there's something we need to discuss. Outside the shrine the two of them strolled along. Naruto had already set 20 of his clones to act as guards and hidden them in the nearby trees and shrubs. Even while he and his sensei were off talking she remained under protection. So what's going on sensei? Naruto, Kakashi said in a low voice. I think you're getting a little too involved with our client. Huh, what do you mean? A ninja's first and only true loyalty should be to his village Naruto, Kakashi said quietly. While on a mission we are loyal to our client. We will do everything in our power to protect our client, even lay down our lives. But when the mission is over we return to our village. For people like us Naruto it's very dangerous to make attachments outside the village. We care about our village and about our comrades, but we can't care too much for the people we are sent out to protect. Naruto came to a halt and looked up at him. Why not? Shizuku is a really good person and I like her. Except for Gigi, she's been nicer to me than anyone I've ever known. I agree that she's a very nice person Naruto, and that she is very kind to you. Nevertheless you can't afford to care too much. How come? Naruto demanded. None of us can know what the future holds Naruto, Kakashi told him. Someone we protect today could be a target tomorrow. Seeing a look of outrage Kakashi waved his hands signaling him to relax. Not that I expect there's any chance of that in this situation, but it's not a good idea to get into the habit of becoming really close to people outside the village. A ninja should never have divided loyalties. He should always know exactly where his loyalties lie. I know who I'm loyal to, Naruto said. I'm loyal to the old man. And what would you do if the Hokage ordered you to come back here one day and assassinate her? The old man would never do something like that. But what if he did? Kakashi asked. Killing people, even innocent people, is a regular part of a ninja's life. As a leaf ninja you must be ready at any time to carry out any mission given to you, even one that involves people you already know. As a matter of fact you might get the mission because you know them and can get closer to them more easily. So if the Hokage were to order you to kill her someday what would you do? Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and glared up defiantly. He did not answer. That's about what I thought, Kakashi said. It's fine for now, like I said I can't imagine the scenario where anything like this would ever happen. But remember what I told you for the future. Don't care about anyone outside the village, got it? Don't care too much. You'll meet a lot of people during your career and the connections you make can be very valuable to you. Making friends with your clients is just fine, as long as you understand your loyalty belongs only to the village. So I should be ready to betray any friends I make who aren't from Konoha. That's a rather harsh way of putting it Naruto. But that's what you mean right? Kakashi nodded. More or less. Sasuke and Sakura returned a little after 10. Other than Sakura gushing about what a marvelous dancer Sasuke was there was nothing for them to report. So far as any of them could tell there was nothing out of the ordinary about Hokkaido or its festival. The first full day of their mission had gone well. The trouble began late that night. Long after they had put out the lights and gone to bed 5 figures dressed in black moved through the woods. With blades in hand they approached the shrine. 3352. Chapter 9. Something every ninja should know. 5 men dressed in black moved through the woods to the edge of the clearing surrounding the shrine. They huddled together and looked over the darkened shrine. Even with its lights off they could see it clearly thanks to the moon. Remember, there are ninja in there. We need to be careful. One of the men whispered. Is this a good idea? Another asked. It has to be done, the first one said. What if the ninja are awake? A different man said nervously. It's 3 in the morning, I'm sure they're all asleep. You're sure of that are you? An amused voice said from the tree branches just above them. All 5 of the would-be assassins gasped and looked up. There was an adult sitting calmly on a tree branch with a book in his hand. Near him on other branches were 3 identical blonde boys, all well hidden. Even in a nice quiet town like this we do still post a guard just in case. He snapped shut his book and put it away. I don't suppose you'd like to just give up now. He was answered by a shout and a throwing knife. The knife came nowhere near him. In the blink of an eye he was on the ground in the middle of them. A few punches, a couple kicks and it was all over. All 5 of them were unconscious. The 3 cage bunchins jumped down and looked upset. No fair sensei. I didn't get the chance to do anything. Don't complain Naruto, it won't always be that easy. I just wanted to see for myself the level of the opposition. Looking at the prone bodies he snorted. They weren't much. Beneath his mask Kakashi frowned. No, they weren't, and that's what scares me. What do you mean? Isn't that a good thing? Squatting down near a couple of the unconscious men he nodded to them. Look closely Naruto and tell me what you see. Not understanding Naruto looked them over not sure what he was supposed to be looking for. I just see 5 men who came here to attack Shizuku and got beat up instead. You're not looking underneath Naruto. He reached out and pulled up a jacket one of the men had on. These men aren't in ninja gear or in any sort of armor. They're all wearing different kinds of work and casual clothes. Look at their weapons, he pointed to them. A couple short swords, a couple axes, some throwing knives, and even a couple kitchen knives and cleavers. Now what does all this tell you? Naruto shrugged. That they're not ninja or even real soldiers, they're probably just civilians who used whatever they had. Kakashi nodded. That's part of it, but it also means something else that is very troubling. What? It means these men were very likely volunteers rather than members of an organization. How can you tell that? The kunai and shuriken you have in your pouch, are they better or worse than the ones Sasuke or Sakura have? They're the same, I bought them in the same standard everyone else does. Though I had to pay about 3 times as much. Kakashi nodded. While many ninja have personalized weapons, all Leaf Ninja use the same basic kunai and shuriken because they are an organizational standard. Groups that work together closely will invariably develop certain common traits. But none of these men dressed alike or even brought the same weapons. So that would indicate they were assigned the job or volunteered for it and provided what they thought they would need themselves. I still don't see what the problem is. If these men were volunteers or assigned this job at random even though they apparently hadn't worked or trained together, that suggests there was a large body to select from, doesn't it? Up until now I'd thought this was a small group of religious fanatics. What if we're dealing with something much larger? Naruto thought about the implications and didn't like them. It doesn't matter, I'll keep her safe no matter how many people threaten her. Kakashi nodded. Yes we will. He grabbed 2 men and tossed one over each shoulder. In the meanwhile I have something to take care of. He looked over to the Naruto he'd been talking to. I'll handle this part on my own. What are you going to do? I'm just going to ask them a few questions, Kakashi said pleasantly. The clone looked calmly back at him. You're going to torture them. Only if I have to, and only as much as I have to. We need some information and time isn't on our side. A lot of what a ninja does isn't pretty and isn't glorious, but it's necessary. Let me watch, Naruto said in a deathly serious voice. I don't think this is something you need to see yet. It's necessary for a ninja though, isn't it? It's something I'll have to learn about eventually, right? Naruto demanded. I know you don't like to teach me anything, sensei, but just this once why don't you make an exception? Kakashi saw the look in Naruto's eyes. It was a look he'd seen many times, but never in anyone so young. Why do you want to learn about torture? Kakashi asked quietly. No special reason, he said with a false smile. Just thought it might come in handy someday. Several times Kakashi had wondered just what was there beneath that mask he used. Naruto played the happy idiot well. So well, in fact many people accepted the persona without question. But Kakashi was nothing if not observant. He'd watched both Naruto and Sasuke very carefully and had serious concerns about both. He suspected that both boys were being consumed by rage and a desire for revenge. Naruto hid this while Sasuke didn't bother to. Every now and again Naruto would let his mask slip and reveal something very scary. Of the two of them, Naruto worried him the most because he was so determined to keep his true nature hidden. All right, Kakashi answered. If you really want to see, that's fine, pick up the other 3 and follow me. Naruto nodded and 3 clones picked up 3 men before following Kakashi deeper into the woods away from the shrine. Hi there. The man slowly opened his eyes. He found himself staring into a masked face with some crazy hair and one eye covered up. And the face was upside down. It took a moment for him to realize he was the one upside down. He looked about and saw he was tied up and being suspended over a small stream. What's going on? That's my line, Kakashi told him. By the way, my name is Hatake Kakashi and I'm a ninja from Konoha. Who might you be? The man clamped down his teeth and stared back defiantly. Not going to answer my questions, I understand, and I want you to know I respect your loyalty to your comrades. Kakashi released a rope he'd been holding in his right hand. The man fell into the water below. Caught by surprise, he'd been gasping and had not thought to hold his breath. As soon as he hit the water, he took in a mouthful of water and started to choke. His instincts took over and he thrashed about trying to free himself. His arms and legs were bound tight though, so it was all just wasted motion. The air left his mouth and nose and the water poured in. He could feel the water fill his nose and throat as he tried to breathe. Terror filled him as all he could see was murky water. Then just as he thought he was really going to drown, the rope around his ankles tightened and he was hauled up out of the water. As his prisoner coughed and gagged, Kakashi patiently waited. There was no point in talking until the man had a chance to recover a bit. When the coughing passed and he was breathing normally, Kakashi spoke. But while I admire your loyalty, I have a job to do. I need you to answer all my questions and answer them truthfully. I promise you that if you do that, you won't be harmed. If you don't, I can't answer for what may happen here. You can't do that. I'm a citizen of Fire Country. Without a word, Kakashi let go of the rope again. This time the man managed to take a breath and shut his mouth. That didn't stop the water trickling in through his nose though. And before long he could feel his lungs aching. He finally opened his mouth and the water came in again. He struggled like a fish on a hook but couldn't get his head out of the water. Again, just as it seemed he was really going to die, he felt himself being yanked up out of the water. Watching cough and gag and then desperately breathe in the air, Kakashi knew this wouldn't take long. Very few people could last any amount of time under torture. Unless you were someone trained to endure pain and who was willing to die. Like a ninja. I am a representative of the Lord Hokage on a mission and charged to complete that mission by whatever means necessary. I am not answerable to you, your village, or even to the Fire Daimyo himself. The only one I must answer to is the Lord Hokage. And if I have to kill a few pieces of garbage like you to protect my client, I will. Now, let's try again. Who are you? My name is Jibo. A pleasure to meet you, Jibo. Now please tell me who you are working with. Naruto watched as Kakashi dropped the man into the water for a third time. It was interesting watching Kakashi go. Whenever people had hurt him, it had always been with anger. Watching someone inflict a measured amount of suffering without even a speck of anger was definitely different. Naruto watched and listened as the man began to talk about everything he knew. He required no more dunkings, his spirit seemed broken. Is that all it takes to break someone? He thought contemptuously. He thought off all the beatings, all the threats, all the cruelty he'd been forced to swallow at so many hands. If he were the sort to break so easily, he'd have committed suicide long ago. When Kakashi finally had all his answers, he knocked the prisoner out and brought his soaking wet body over to a tree where he was tied up and gagged. Kakashi then went and retrieved another prisoner. He had tied each one to a different tree a good ways from here. They would have no chance to talk to each other or hear what their friend had already answered. Each prisoner was tortured, their answers expanded his information and either confirmed or called into doubt what he'd been told. Naruto found the lesson very instructive. Through all this, the shrine remained under the watchful eyes of Naruto's clones. By the time Kakashi was done, the clones who had accompanied him dispelled themselves, giving their original all the information. The real Naruto woke up knowing everything that had happened. He crawled over to Sasuke and Sakura and shook them awake. "What is it, Naruto?" Sakura asked in a bleary voice. Looking out the window, she saw it was still pitch dark outside. "Geez, what time is it? Was there a reason you woke us up, Dobi?" Sasuke asked. "Yeah, Tem, we had visitors during the night and we're going to have more of them this morning." Sasuke came fully awake and looked very interested. "What are you talking about?" "Kakashi-sensei will explain everything, but we need to get up and get ready." A few hours later it was morning and the sun was up above the horizon. Shizuku and Sakura were the only ones still inside the shrine. Sakura hadn't wanted to be here, she'd wanted to be outside with Sasuke-kun and the others. Kakashi though had ordered her to remain here and keep an eye on Shizuku. "Will it be all right?" Shizuku asked nervously. Sakura nodded her head forcefully. "It will be fine, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun, and even Naruto can all take care of themselves. And I'll make sure nothing happens to you." Despite her smile, she was filled with doubt. "Cha, I'm the weakest and sensei knows it too. That's why he's keeping me out of the way." Outside the shrine, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto all waited. For once the two teammates wore similar expressions, they both had looks of eager anticipation. Kakashi was standing there calmly reading his book. With or without the mask, it would have been impossible to know what he was thinking. Naruto suddenly turned to him. "One of my clones just dispelled, they're coming, and they should be here pretty soon." Kakashi slowly nodded. Naruto's shadow clone technique was really useful in all sorts of ways. He closed his book and put it away. "How many of them are there?" I counted 100, Naruto said. You can count that high? Sasuke asked. Shut up, Tem, Naruto grunted. Kakashi sighed. Just remember, we just need to stop them. Don't use lethal force unless it's necessary. Naruto noticed Sasuke shake a little. You afraid bastard. Sasuke looked at him with a rare grin. I'm shivering from excitement dead last. Well, this should definitely be exciting, Kakashi said. About 10 minutes later they saw a long line of men approaching them. About half of them wore leather jerkins covered by coats with badges pinned to them. Each of them wore a short sword similar to the ones two of their prisoners had used. The rest of the crowd approaching them wore different sorts of outfits and carried a wide variety of weapons ranging from axes to spears to swords and even sickles. They came up to the edge of the clearing and stopped. Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke were all standing there calmly. One of the men who wore a badge spoke up. I am Captain Hotaka, commander of the Hikado police force. We've had word of an incident last night. That's interesting, Kakashi noted. Especially since no one's contacted the police about what happened here this morning. Hotaka frowned but pressed on. Mayor Binya has decided that it would be best to leave the priestess's safety in our hands. Really? He went to the trouble of hiring us in the first place because he didn't trust his own police force with protecting her. The mayor has since had a change of heart, Hotaka told him. We realize we have wasted your time and apologize for that. We will still pay for the full cost of your services, but we'd like you to leave now. I am afraid that would be impossible, Kakashi said. My team and I were dispatched here to complete a mission and that is exactly what I intend to do. Your mission is over now, we'll take care of the girl. Her name is Shizuku, Naruto said angrily. If you're going to talk about her at least use her name. Sasuke looked over in surprise while Kakashi gave no reaction. I am afraid you don't have the authority to cancel this mission, Kakashi said. I think it would be best for you and your men if they turned around and left. I can't do that, Hotaka said and placed a hand on his short sword. That appeared to be a signal as behind him weapons were drawn and readied. Stand aside or me and my men will use force, Hotaka said. You and your men are welcome to try. At a signal the men shouted and ran forward. Chapter 10, Whatever It Takes. The men all gave a shout and came on, weapons ready. As they did so Naruto's jumped down from the nearby trees among them. Instantly everything dissolved into one wild melee. 3 men with badges and short swords were on Kakashi at the start. These men were strong and healthy and from the way they moved it was clear they'd had at least a little practice with their swords. From the looks in their eyes it was also clear they were deadly serious about reaching their target. For someone like Kakashi all that meant very little. The challenge for him wasn't in defeating these men but in doing so without seriously injuring them. In a blur 2 fists smashed into unprotected faces while the third was hit in the side of the head with a kick. All 3 attackers went down in under 3 seconds. Despite this show of strength and martial skill other men came at him with swords and axes, desperate to bring the Jonin down by sheer force of numbers. Kakashi had no doubts he could handle any number of these people, but they did get between him and his students. Sasuke was surrounded by 4 men, all of them at least a foot taller and 50 pounds heavier and armed. The Uchiha was smiling, his heart was pounding, and for the first time in years he felt really truly alive. Here was a chance to actually do something, to fight a real battle against a real enemy. The man in front of him screamed and swung an axe aiming to split his skull in half. Too slow, Sasuke stepped forward into the arc of his swing and delivered a pair of rabbit punches to the man's kidneys that doubled him up. He had no chance to do more as someone else stabbed at him with a spear. A single chop of his hand broke off the metal head. Grabbing the wooden staff he drove it forward through his opponent's lax grip. The butt end of the spear slammed into his stomach. With a loud, oof, he fell over clutching his belly. From behind 2 more men came at him with swords swinging. These 2 had enough sense to come at him as a team. As one stabbed the other tried to get behind him. Sasuke was forced to dodge and jump back as the second man's sword came close to cutting him. For civilians they were pretty fast. Then something strange happened. For no reason he could see they slowed down. Not only did they slow down he could see just where they were aiming their strikes. Taking out a kunai he blocked one attack and delivered a kick to the side of the man's knee. He went down in a heap and wouldn't be standing, let alone fighting again anytime soon. His friend ran in stabbing at Sasuke's chest. The move was ridiculously obvious as Sasuke could see it coming. He easily dodged and delivered a punch to the side of his jaw that ended the fight. 4 men lay at his feet unconscious or otherwise disabled. It was just as Sasuke had always known it would be, they were no match for him. He waded into the crowd eager for more battle. Oblivious to the fact his Sharingan was now active. "Come on!" Naruto screamed. His fist slammed into a man's chest and he could feel ribs break. He was the Kyuubi, his speed and physical strength were greater than they should have been, as was his ferocity. The man he hit cried out and dropped his sword, backing away from him. Naruto didn't hesitate, he delivered a punch that busted open the man's mouth and sent blood and teeth flying. With him down he looked around for someone else to fight. He and his clones were cutting loose, fighting with a wild abandon. Naruto was discovering that he really liked fighting. He actually enjoyed bloodshed, the sight of it, the metallic smell of it, it was wonderful. "This is what I was born for," he thought as a punch slammed into a man's back, bringing him down without warning. "I'm the Kyuubi and this is my nature." In the midst of fighting he found an odd sort of peace. He didn't have to pretend to be something he was not, he could let his nature come out. He could show them the monster he was slowly becoming. Normally he was surrounded by nothing but lies and deception, everyone pretending to be something else, himself included. On the battlefield though you got to see what someone really was. All through the fighting he had held back from using lethal force as Kakashi had instructed. He wanted to kill though, wanted to see and taste more blood. He wanted to be buried in that wonderful scent. But he held back. He couldn't reveal too much of the real him, not yet. So he looked around for someone new to fight. And by chance saw 2 men who had gotten behind them in the confusion and were kicking down the shrine's door. They could both hear the sounds of the fight raging outside. The 2 girls had locked the one and only door and covered the windows. They both waited in silence as they heard but did not see what was going on just outside. Without warning the wooden burst open, shards of wood sent flying from the broken lock. 2 men with leather jerkins and badges rushed in with swords drawn and murder in their eyes. "Get behind me, Shizuku!" Sakura cried and gripped a kunai in both hands while putting herself between the intruders and her client. This was it, this was the moment she had strived for, worked for, learned all the ninja rules for. She was in a life and death situation, she was acting like a real ninja. And it was only at this moment that she had a horrible epiphany. She was scared. These 2 men wanted to kill her. They didn't give a damn who she was or if she was the girl best suited to be with Sasuke. All they saw was an enemy they had to get through to reach their objective. Her heart was pounding and she couldn't keep her knees from shaking. Somehow during all the years at the academy as she had focused on her pursuit of Sasuke and on being the best in academics, she had never thought about this side of being a ninja. That was absurd, that anyone could spend years striving to be a ninja and never once wonder about the reality of a life and death fight. Such violence was the reason ninja and ninja villages existed. Yet whenever she would imagine herself going on missions, her thoughts always revolved around her amazing Sasuke with her skills. The idea that one day she would have to kill or be killed never really registered. Until now. As the men came at her howling, she was half a step too slow. Her fear led to hesitation, and her hesitation led to what she feared. With her kunai she managed to deflect one of the swords, but was unable to get out of the way of the second. Her eyes widened as the tip of the second blade went into the soft flesh just below her right shoulder and sunk in deep. Ah! Her cry of terror belonged to a 12-year-old girl, not to a ninja. She jerked back and the sword came out of her. Pain engulfed her shoulder as her right arm no longer wanted to work. She saw and felt the hot blood flow from her gash and darken her red dress. "Sakura!" Shizuku called out. As Sakura stumbled back, the 2 men did not hesitate. They did not offer her a chance to surrender or say a word. They came on wanting to finish her as quick as they could and take care of the priestess. "I'm going to die," Sakura realized with a sudden clarity. All those book smarts she prided herself on, all the good looks that were so important to her, none of them mattered now. She was too weak, and now she was going to pay for it. "Stop!" A voice screamed from the door. Before her eyes there was an orange blur. Just as the 2 men were turning to face their new attacker, she saw a glint of steel. She stood there and just watched as Naruto slammed one kunai into the side of a man's throat all the way to the handle. In the same instant the kunai in his other hand went into the side of the other man's skull with an audible chunk sound that was exactly like when a kunai went into a wooden training post. The man with the kunai in his head dropped to the floor and jerked and flopped around like a fish until he went still. The one with the knife through his throat dropped his sword and clutched at his bleeding throat. Naruto pulled out another kunai and viciously began stabbing the man in his chest. He didn't just stab him once, or twice, he stabbed him and stabbed him and stabbed him. Even after 15 of so, with him lying motionless on the floor in an expanding pool of blood he kept right on stabbing, a huge smile on his face, his eyes alive and filled with an immense joy. "Stop it!" Shizuku screamed. "Naruto, for the love of Kami, stop!" Hearing Shizuku scream, Naruto jerked to a halt with the kunai halfway down to another stab. He looked and saw the horror on Shizuku's face. His own face and clothes were spattered in blood. His weapon and his right hand were drenched in it. The smile and the look of excitement faded. Naruto refused to break eye contact with her. "I did what I had to." As if coming out of a daze, he looked around the shrine and hurried over to Sakura. He pulled out some gauze from one of his pouches and bound up her wound. Shizuku kept a fearful distance and never took her eyes off of him. The fight lasted roughly 5 minutes. The final outcome was never really in doubt. When Kakashi entered the shrine and saw what was there, he cursed himself for letting his guard down. He'd been confident that he and the two boys would be more than a match for 100 civilians. Because of that confidence he had very nearly lost both one of his students and their client. "Naruto-kun saved my life, and Shizuku's too," Sakura said. Kakashi nodded. "I'm proud of you, Naruto, you did exactly what any good ninja should. Your use of deadly force was proper and necessary. You defended your comrade and your client. When we get back I'll put in a special commendation in your file." Kakashi decided not to mention the fact that one of the men killed had obviously been savaged beyond any possible need. Ninja had to be willing to kill without hesitation, but to commit such butchery suggested a violent and uncontrolled nature. That was extremely troubling, but this was not the time to try and deal with it. "Thanks, sensei," Naruto replied and turned a gentle gaze to Sakura, who was lying on a mat. "I'm just glad I got here in time to help Sakura-chan and Shizuku." "You're worthless, Sakura. Shizuku almost died because you couldn't even handle 2 civilians. You call yourself a ninja. The first time we go against other ninja you'll be dead in 30 seconds. Seeing the look of concern in Naruto's expression, Sakura smiled back warmly. Sasuke had not realized he'd activated his Sharingan until Kakashi told him. Kakashi had promised to begin training him in its use as soon as they got back to Konoha. Sasuke wasn't sure what a non-Uchiha could show him about it, but he would take whatever instruction he could get. When he had entered the shrine with Kakashi, he'd been surprised to find the 2 corpses there and Sakura lying wounded. He'd assumed he'd be the first to score a kill on the team, but Naruto had beaten him to it. Sasuke had sent Naruto one single respectful nod. Surprised, Naruto had shyly nodded back, understanding. It looked like Naruto really had grown up since the academy. He was obviously a much stronger ninja than poor Sakura. He was willing to admit that the Dobi was deserving of some respect. But while he respected what Naruto had done, he had no doubts about his own continued superiority. If not for Kakashi's order, he could have had a dozen kills, and now that his Sharingan was active he would only grow more and more powerful. As Kakashi watched over Sakura, Naruto quietly approached Shizuku. She eyed him with worry but did not turn away or try to leave. "Do you not like me anymore?" Naruto asked directly, his voice low to keep his words just for her. The 8-year-old girl looked up at him. His face and clothes were still bloody. The bodies were still lying on the floor. The shrine had been desecrated. Whoever became the next priestess would have to spend weeks performing purification rituals. I still like you, Nisan," she said just as quietly. "And for saving me and Sakura I thank you. But, you," her voice began to shake. "I killed," he said. "I did what I had to. You heard Kakashi-sensei, it was what any ninja would do. I'm even getting a commendation for it. There was nothing wrong in what I did. But you killed. Those men are dead now. Don't you feel any sorrow? Any regret? No, they'd have killed you and Sakura without a second thought. When it's us or them, I chose them. How can you be so cruel?" she asked sadly. "It's cruel world out there," he told her. "Maybe you didn't notice because you've been stuck in a shrine all this time. The men who came here all wanted to kill you. I did what I had to, my team did what we had to. Would it have been better if we hadn't? She looked down. Maybe, she said so very softly. It hurts me to think I am the cause of all this. Don't say that, Shizuku-chan. None of this is your fault. The only people to blame are the people who want to kill you. Don't start blaming yourself for something that isn't your fault. She looked up at him. Why do you care so much, Naruto? Because you're a friend, he nearly wailed. Except for one other person, you are the only one to be really kind to me. You've become a precious person to me and I would do anything to protect you. And a slight smile appeared. Thank you, Nisan, that means a lot to me. Sorry to interrupt, Kakashi said and joined them. There is something we need to discuss. He was looking at Shizuku. What is it, Kakashi-san? I think it would be best if we were to all leave here now. You can return with us to Konoha. Leave, Shizuku said, startled. But I am the priestess of the spring, I have a duty to perform. Besides, this is my home. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the only duty you have here is to be sacrificed. There is something you need to know. Flashback. Jibo was coughing up water. Please no more, I'll tell you whatever you want. Kakashi nodded. All right, first thing, how many people are in your organization? About half the village, Jibo said. If you'd like to go for another swim, Kakashi let the rope slip and bit and Jibo jerked towards the water. It's the truth, I swear. Jibo cried. I started with a few people, no one really knows who. But over time more and more people joined. About half the village knows, including the whole police force. We do what is necessary for the village to thrive. If we don't come back tomorrow, you'll be facing a lot more men who'll be ready to do whatever they have to. Kakashi got an uneasy feeling, he believed him. If that's really true, then why did Binya send for us? The mayor is part of the half that doesn't know. The people who aren't part of it have no idea who is or how many we are. Binya didn't know who he could trust, so he just acted on his own as mayor, using village funds to hire all of you. So what you're saying is that roughly about 30,000 people are a part of this conspiracy. Jibo nodded. And all of us are committed to doing whatever it takes. So you can see our problem, Kakashi said. I decided to stay here to see what sort of response we would get when the original 5 men didn't return. Given what we faced, I'd say we really are up against a massive number of people. Ninja can do a lot, but even with me here, the 4 of us cannot face thousands. The only way we can ensure your safety is to take you away from here. I am sorry, Kakashi-san, but I cannot do that. Whatever the danger, I have a sacred duty to perform. I cannot abandon it, I will not abandon it. You do understand that if you stay here, I cannot guarantee your safety. If you and your team wish to leave, Kakashi-san, I will not blame you. But I cannot go. If you're staying, then we're staying too. Right, sensei? Naruto said. Though he looked pained, Kakashi nodded. I will do everything in my power to protect you and carry out my mission. That is the way of the village hidden within the leaf. If we make it out of here, I am definitely getting some hazard pay for this.